every holocron I've studied and every new dark side cult simply states the teachings of the Sith encapsulated in these texts. But Sorzus Syn, Darth Malgus, Darth Bane, Mother Talzin, and Darth Plagueis believed too rigidly in their own dogmas. If any of them could have met and shared their belief, they would have found little common ground. I have bound the recovered pages from the works of these great Sith Lords in one volume. These relics are unique and irreplaceable. They are the Book of Sith. Sorzus Syn's Chronicle of the Rise of the Sith Empire is the oldest text by many thousands of years. She was a dark Jedi banished into exile following their failed war against the Jedi. Syn was exceptionally adept at twisting life through Sith alchemy. The Jedi kept these pages locked in their archives, but I reclaimed them after the cleansing of their temple. Regrettably, I could not remove the scrawls left in the margins by Jedi Masters Yoda and Mace Windu, while the text was in their possession. The excerpts from the Journal of Darth Malgus, kept during the Great Galactic War some 36 centuries ago, are prime examples of how a wounded warrior can be sustained by rage. The war was an unbounded success for the era's Sith Emperor, and Malgus was one of his best soldiers. I obtained these texts many decades ago from a dealer in antiquities, and have recently passed it to Darth Vader, so he might gain inspiration. Darth Bane's Rule of Two was a keystone of the Sith Order for centuries. The Battle of Ruusan, nearly a millennium ago, would have ended the Sith Order had Darth Bane not reconstituted it as a diarchy operating from the shadows. His writings became part of the Sith archives, passed down from master to apprentice for generations. During the Clone Wars, my servant Count Dooku shared the book with the Jedi agent Quinlan Voss, an ill-conceived effort to lure and corrupt him. Count Dooku's failure is no longer important, for my clone troopers rectified that breach and eliminated Voss while carrying out Order 66. Most texts I recovered were penned by Sith, but Wild Power by Mother Talzin relates to another dark side group, the Night Sisters. Although Talzin's text expounds her misguided reverence for nature spirits, it does possess a shrewd pragmatism I admire. The members of her Night Sister clan became merchants for the galaxy's finest dark side mercenaries during the Clone Wars. Asajj Ventress, a Night Sister by birth, who served Count Dooku until I ordered otherwise, appears to have added her commentary after she slinked away to Dathomir to become a member of the tribe once more. One of my inquisitors recovered this book while raiding the planet to capture Force-sensitive slaves. My master Darth Plagueis recorded his own musings on what he believed to be the true nature of the dark side. Although he had a fatal blind spot, he revolutionized Sith understanding of the relationship between biology and the Force. The pages of this text still bear the comments I made after taking Darth Plagueis' place as master and making his possessions my own. Stories of the previous authors ended, but my reign is just beginning. By melding the core truths of the dark side found in these texts, I have set forth the Book of Anger, the weakness of inferiors, and the manipulation of life. These established the true knowledge of the dark side, and made plain the tasks required to implement a Sith order. I have accomplished what no Sith has ever done before. I have destroyed the Jedi and subverted Coruscant. I sit on the throne of a new and unstoppable regime. I will shape the great galactic empire according to my own design. The Sith have dreamt of this moment since the beginning of recorded history. I could not have achieved this prize without treading on the backs of those who came before. Exploiting the failures of others is the way of the Sith. Since my days as a young noble on Naboo, long before I joined Darth Plagueis and began my apprenticeship, I collected the dark side lore. These rubbings of Sith tablets and untranslatable runic scrolls were coveted and traded on the black markets by cultists, collectors, and museum curators willing to defy the Republic's ban on Sith artifacts. The very existence of this illicit trade confirms many vital truths. Rulers seek to control information. The powerful will do anything to hoard their power. And if something is forbidden, it is likely a thing worth knowing. Getting these artifacts past the law officials into my quarters on Naboo provided new lessons. True power brokers dwell in the shadows. Credits can buy anything, even intangible concepts such as access and silence. It is necessary to lie to achieve anything of value, and a skilled liar is nearly impossible to detect. Although my experience acquiring texts provided a practical knowledge of how treasures and secrets change hands, as well as the roles non-force sensitives play in keeping the galaxy running. The actual dark side tomes deepened my knowledge of the ancient Sith. I realized I had all the tools I needed to craft my own system of power, one that fused contemporary politics with Sith ideals. Under the tutelage of Darth Plagueis, I inherited the Sith archives. More than 1,000 years worth of teachings passed in secret from master to apprentice. But what I learned was that only a handful of figures had ever truly advanced the cause of the Sith. Thus, I made it my goal to recover their most famous writings, not the revisions of misguided chroniclers who lived hundreds of years after them, but the parchments bearing their original words and recorded by their own hands. With the fall of the Jedi Temple, I have finally recovered the last of these documents, though only fragments of each have survived the centuries. Together these pages unite one of the first Sith Lords with he who shall be the last. Each author's voice echoes the era in which he or she held power, but the Sith Order has evolved over 7,000 years. The errors made by my predecessors will not be my own. Their triumphs will be nothing compared to my omnipotence.
I am not Sith. I do not share their blood. Yet in the time since we arrived among these savage people, we have become their rulers, for the Force strong must ever seek power. We have adopted their titles, their dress, and their traditions. We are no longer Jedi expelled from the Republic's smothering embrace. We are Gen Jedi, Lords of the Sith. We arrive here after the 100-year war that nearly toppled their Jedi Order. The Jedi, so confident in their triumph, did not execute us. With lightsaber points at our backs, they marched us aboard the galleon that would take us into exile. Outside the Republic's borders, there were 12 of us, including several ranking commanders: High General Ajunta Paul, Marchioness Zerzan, Commander of the Black Legions Baron Draper, our fleet's sole remaining admiral Karnus Mer, whose Force-centered battle tactics have saved us from the trap of Fluhaka, and I, Sorzus Syn, grower of living weapons and biological plagues. Other less distinguished Dark Jedi were prominent within our company, only because they had not perished in the war. The war had raged for a century between the Jedi Council, with its petrified orthodoxy, and those who wished to topple it. As the last survivors of those who sought a new path to power, we ultimately fell victim to the military excess of the Jedi at the root of Corvus. Our punishment for high treason was to be banished into uncharted space, but our flight into the unknown was not without direction. For years, I extracted information from refugees and catalogued rumors, searching for proof that the kingdom of the Sith purebloods, existed. My beliefs have been vindicated. What lies before us is the limitless pool of steadfast warriors and untapped wealth of knowledge about the dark side of the Force. We rule the Sith. Here we will build a sovereignty of the dark side to overcome millennia of injustice. But I am the rightful ruler, for I alone possess the curiosity to translate their secrets and apply them to larger patterns of conquest. I foresee what will become a magnificent Sith Empire. While Corvus was the last battle of the 100-Year Darkness, the conflict began with the most recent Great Schism. Historians squabble over how many such splits have occurred within Jedi ranks. I care not for the exact number, but with each one, the Jedi Council's stranglehold on the ways of the Force weakened. The 100-Year Darkness was a spectacular, yet predictable, revolt against a Jedi complacency. The Jedi Order has not evolved in nearly 20 millennia. Even after the Order's founding on Typhon, its most curious members realized the failings of their teachers, and so began the First Great Schism. In those days, a Kashmir outsider named Zendor inspired several Jedi to question the light side, or Ashla. They discovered the use of the dark side, or Bogan, unlocked the shackles their Jedi masters had placed on the Force. Zendor's followers, those who believed as he did but lacked his abilities, became his acolytes, or the legions of Letau. Of course, the Jedi fought. They fought with desperation against a future in which they had no followers. History says that Zendor and his legions perished in the Battle of Columbus, but that was not the tragedy of the First Great Schism. The tragedy was that the Jedi learned nothing. They could have embraced the dark side and become the central power of the empire that the legions of Letau sought to build. Instead, they returned to their antiquated ways and alienated their most gifted members. We exiles are the heirs to Zendor's bold heresy. The war in which we fought, and in which many of our followers died, could have been prevented. It was the Jedi who took up arms to keep us from revealing the truth about the Force. They had been paddling in the shallows for eons by boldly venturing into the Force's expanse. We gained powers that no Jedi had ever possessed. Life itself was at our command. It was I who grew the Leviathans, who splintered the Jedi barricades at Balmorra. I gave them the ability to swallow spirits and to store those life energies in skin blisters. The Leviathans, my exquisite monsters, were the final culmination of the Shamblers, the Howlers, the Pit Horrors, and all the other spawn I'd given shape and purpose to. My purpose. The Jedi shunned this power, as they have resisted every improvement. They caused a schism in their own ranks. Until we annihilate the old order, the pattern will continue, repeating forever. I guided our creaking galleon through the hyperspace breakwater known as the Stygian Caldera, which could not have been accomplished without command of the Force. For this reason, navigators have found no true routes into Sith space. Only blind jumps. Those who are strong with the dark side, like myself, can sense the way as a Devlik can sense magnetic north. We touch down on Korriban, the world that screams the loudest for those who can hear the dark side's voice. It is on Korriban that the Sith purebloods began. It is here that they often return in death. we stepped out of the cramped reek of our interstellar prison into the light of an unfamiliar sun. Grand tombs carved from the planet's stone surrounded us. The sand was littered with the bones of 1,000 kings. The Sith greeted us. Despite our obvious superior powers, we were not hailed as gods when we arrived. It took weeks for us to understand the power structure of their culture, to undermine it, and to annihilate the current king. Ajunta Paul beheaded their ruler, Hakaglam Glaush, and claimed the throne as the blood heir to the ancestral King Adas, and we became his shadow hands. From that time on, I made it my goal to understand the Sith space, and the treasures that might await us in this realm. Draper's fleet experience at last proved useful as the two of us mapped the local hyperlanes. Would that he had shown such competence in defending Corbus. Our work identified the looping hyperspace lanes within the Stygian caldera that contains the planets of the Sith Empire. The Nash Belafia routes link Ziost, Cardeluba, Rulg, Kreis, and Coliban, the 5 worlds most sacred to the Sith. Ziost has been the throne world of the Sith pureblood since prehistory. It is where we erected our own palaces to rule as Sith lords. The Sith respect power, and they are content to serve us. In fact, the Sith purebloods are marvels. They are a people driven by hunger, rage, and the dark side. Though they are humanoid in form, their tough hides span hues from crimson to obsidian, and their hands and feet are clawed. 2 thick, fleshy tendrils dangle from their cheeks or jaws, and 2 more tendrils protrude from their temples. After much experimentation, I have concluded that their blood is sufficiently similar to our own to permit alchemical crossbreeding. I know Draper, for one, has had his eye on a Sith priestess. He will be pleased to learn his bloodline will not only persist, but thrive. The Sith purebloods are strong in the Force, but they do not outmatch us. They are rooted in primitivism. While we were once the Republic's greatest Jedi, they have discovered many secrets, some unknown to any other beings in the galaxy. But their unshakable caste structure instills obedience and purpose, which serve as well as their overlords. Those of us who came to this world with rank and ambition make up Ziost's new Sith Council. Ajunta Paul is our Dark Lord, or Genali. Force willing, his reign will be short. We are served by their priests, the Kisai, who have come to worship us as demigods. They regard Ajunta Paul as the manifestation of Typhogem, the left-handed god, and are thus easily persuaded to do our bidding. Their engineers, the Zugaluk, are loyal, but they build far too many burial mounds and too few battleships. I must convince Paul of the need to redirect their labourers, or his title must be taken by force. Our greatest asset is their warriors, the Masasi, who are nothing more than brute muscle animated by consciousness. They are expendable, yet we must breed more if we are to strike back against the Republic, which has shunned and humiliated us. The slaves, a rabble of mixed species, are collectively scorned with the epithet Grotu. After experiencing the artifice of the Republic's slavery bans, it's refreshing to see the weakness of inferiors affirmed and exploited for gain. They may be primitive, but the Sith purebloods are worthy of respect, not only for their skill with the dark side, but also for their hunger for war. The Zugaruk caste has built siege engines that has even developed technologies that can tear apart a star's heart. However, most warfare within Sith space occurs when the combatants can lock gazes before trading blows. Their death-dealing tools are as admirable for their craftsmanship as for their lethality. The Sith sword, while we exiles wielded lightsabers when we fought the 100-year darkness, the Sith have developed edged weapons honed and strengthened through the Force, mirrors of the swords carried by the first Jedi on Typhon. These swords are heavy and require 2 hands to wield, except for the most mammoth of the Massassi, who can handle them with 1 hand. The swords can deflect plasma bolts and withstand the energy of a lightsaber blade. Each acts as a reservoir of dark side power. Sith War Sword. This 2-bladed staff requires great skill to wield and is seldom issued to crude foot soldiers. Ajunta Paul executed Hakagram Glaush using Glaush's own war sword. I have kept the weapon and plan to use the dried blood upon the blade in my alchemy. Lanvarok. This is the battle weapon of the Massassi. When swung, these ranged weapons release a spray of whirling razor discs. The armoured soldiers of Demoru Krev wear Lanvarok gauntlets on their left arms. Lerang. When thrown, this curved blade returns to its user's hand, unless it has been thrown into the skull of an enemy. It is reminiscent of the weapons carried in antiquity by the royal Mashetros of the Kashmir. I have no doubt we can improve it further. Shikar. The Shikar is the tool of assassins. It can be as long as a forearm, yet it is easily concealed beneath robes. A twist of the handle after stabbing a victim will snap the glassy blade off and leave it to fester beneath the skin. Sith Poison. The poisoners of Malki would burn with envy at how the Sith have mastered the subtle art. In battle, the Sith coat their blades and darts with poison. They have also been known to lace the drinking goblets of rivals. The poison can cause pain, paralysis, death, or blood frenzy. But with every generation of Sith, the poison must be improved to compensate for the species' improved immunities. These melee weapons of the Sith are carried by the brute Massassi, but their amulets require more skill. Many among the Kisai priests wear these baubles around their necks to deepen their links to the dark side of the Force. Minor amulets can create protective shields, knit injured flesh, sharpen battle focus, or energize weakened muscles. However, great amulets are priceless and often unique. Users must first overcome the amulet's seductive song, for if they can't, they will be forever lost to dark side insanity. I have acquired many of these prizes for myself, but I remain restless knowing that many more lie locked in the tombs of Caliban. Of the amulets I have encountered, these are the most powerful. Sith Avatar. Were it not for this relic, I would not have attained such easy mastery of the Sith tongue. The Avatar translates any language spoken or written and attunes its wearer to the maddening chatter of ghosts. Yoke of Seeming. This golden armature burns the skin, but through illusion it makes the wearer appear as anyone or anything. I had meant to study this treasure before Zozan stubbornly seized it for herself. Heart of Glaush. The dead king Dafka Glaush replaced his own heart with the fist-sized ruby, which contained the souls of his foes. When paired with the helm of Glaush, the wielder can control the forces of nature. Meditation Sphere. This Sith space-going vessel is not an amulet one can grasp or wear. It is an amulet that encompasses its possessor. The arcane geometries of the vessel's cabin can amplify the passenger's spells 1,000-fold in every direction. Mirror Talisman. Karnus Mirror requested I create this, but it shall be my triumph. My experimentation with the Heart of Glaush and my alchemic mastery of raising Sith spawn will culminate in the first great amulet to be worn by one of the Lords of the Sith. Its power will transform the feeble-minded into braying Rakaguls whose actions are the result of the wearer's desire. It will also preserve the wearer's spirit should he fall in combat. Though Karnus will receive the first, I will complete more than one amulet. The second will go to Draper, so those 2 fools can battle other unceasingly. The third shall be far stronger than the others, and it shall be mine alone. Sith purebloods are natural adepts at the dark side. This I must emphasize, for it is this trait that will make us far stronger in exile than we ever were when we held our former ranks. I have always been one to seek out rumors of esoteric worlds and their life bounty. I do not know of another species like them. The Sith have had 1,000 generations to perfect the dark arts. The ziggurats of stacked stone and the mountainsides carved into stern faces are more than just tombs for vanished kings. When you stand at the intersection of this mystic architecture, you feel a rush of wind and a shiver of electricity. The angles of these mausoleums focus the arcane energies of the Force. On Caliban, which is a planet of nothing but tombs, the very dust appears to generate Force energy. The Valley of Golg is lined with monuments that stood long before the Zell marched across Coruscant. Shortly after our relocation to Ziost, I returned to Caliban with a small cadre of priests and a vast retinue of slaves to unseal the tombs. I could only sense they were ripe for plunder. Upon entering our first target, the cloister of Bilious Torment, I noticed that the passages bristled with dark shooters and were lined with columns that toppled at the slightest footstep. I lost 2 score slaves, but their corpses will scarcely seem out of place, sealed inside the tombs along with the dead lords, were the desert mummified corpses of their servants. Once we penetrated the outer passages, the inner sanctum held the sarcophagus of the great ruler, placed at the center of a power loki. At the end of our 7th day, with slaves running low, we penetrated the sanctum of Sacred Kla. This sacred tomb had apparently lain undisturbed since its sealing more than 10,000 years before. It brimmed with wonders. Here I found scrolls detailing Sith alchemy. I found the preserved body of a Tarantatek. I lost 6 more slaves to a rapacious pack of Tukata, and most impressive of all, I found the holocron of King Nakaglu. Yes, holocrons exist in Sith space. Sith holocron are technologically identical to the Jedi holocrons of the Republic, but they possess the dark side refinements that make them ultimately superior. Scholars know that a holocron is a box of crystalline lattices, which are capable of housing near infinite amounts of priceless data. These matrices can be aligned only through precise and exhausting application of the Force. A completed holocron can be accessed only by another Force user. To navigate a holocron's secrets, one must speak to its gatekeeper, a holographic echo of the device's builder that retains a measure of the builder's spirit. Constructing a holocron can take months, and a single misstep will collapse the device into dust. All this is known to the Jedi as well. I believe the Sith purebloods may have built their first holocron after wresting the secret from the ancient alien conquerors, the Rakata. Thus the Jedi may simply have copied the Rakatans. But Sith holocrons are distinct and devious. They are pyramidal, not cubical, to replicate the angles of power found not only within the Sith tombs, but also within Sith culture. Their exteriors are carved with hieroglyphics, and stylized figures form a sorcerous seal that casts curses on unworthy seekers. The central crystal is the color of smoke, and is both a power source and a repository for the gatekeeper's data ghost. This capstone must be etched with the builder's spirit in a Force ritual called the Rite of Commencement. Destruction of a capstone will release its gatekeeper, and one would be wise to flee rather than face down a vengeful spectre. Within the Nakagru holocron, I learned the history of the Sith purebloods in vivid detail, not found through oral histories or brittle scrolls. I learned those warlike people have living proof that the smug Jedi who banished us are wrong about the dark side. The Sith kill, rage, and hate, yet their society does not fragment. It thrives. More than 3 millennia before the Republic's founding, a prodigious Sith arose. His name was Adas. He bore a glossy ebon hide and carried a pair of battle axes, one in each hand. Most others required 2 hands to swing just one axe. When Adas roared, other Sith rushed to his side or fled in terror. He enslaved the foolish and executed the idealists. When warriors challenged him, he drank their blood soup to honor their deaths. He took control, uniting the squabbling Sith, and became their ruler, King Adas. The reign of the Axe lasted 3 centuries. While Adas sustained his life energy with the dark side, he was worshipped as the Sith Ali, or God of the Sith. Only when the great Rakatan conquerors arrived did his life end, yet even in his death, he achieved a final victory for the Sith by driving off the Rakatan. The technology the Rakatan brought allowed the Sith to expand their influence and claim the planets that make up the dark fist of Sith space. From that time, Adas's example has been followed. It is a simple principle: a strong ruler gives power to the Empire. As revealed by the holocron, the successors to King Adas used their power to conquer worlds beyond Korriban and Ziost. Sith space is remote, but hardly impenetrable, yet the Republic knows nothing of this kingdom of dark magic. The Sith have left scars anyone can read, anyone who does not believe the lie of strength through tolerance. Encounters with the Anzati and the Rakata during the time of King Adas proved to the Sith that they were not the only ones among the stars the Force had animated. This offended their pride and inflamed their fury. The Massassi were unleashed on the neighbouring worlds to snuff out all life and expand the Sith Empire. Did those beings regret their pacifism? Did they rue the democracies and social constructs that offered no protection when invaders burnt their homes? Their dead tongues do not speak. The Sith reached other worlds, including those outside the Stygian caldera. Tund became a prison for heretics. Aurora housed monsters that were spawned from Sith sorcery. And the worlds of Malachor and Fool were fortified against counterattack from any foe. They will serve as the perfect positions from which to launch our reconquest of the Republic. Since gaining this knowledge, I have sought out those conquered Sith worlds to gather information. Our raids have proved one thing: Republic leaders are willfully blind. My fair sight of a shackled Dreyfus in the battle pits inspired me to delve deeper into the collection of vermin-chewed star charts. I confirmed the Sith indeed struck the Republic world of Dreyfus, though the time frame remains murky. They raided Claremia and Felucia and other worlds such as Gand and Flawn, known to scouts and smugglers. The evidence engulfed me. The ash-grimed slaves operating the forge boilers had attracted little notice before, but there it was, a strong-backed Herglick on Ziost cranking the bellows, a limping Millercy on Nilfgaard, burdened with stones nearly unrecognizable under its soot-slicked feathers. A human on Drummond cars so skeletal it could be mistaken for some exotic breed. These were familiar beings I could have encountered in any Coruscant marketplace, and all turned their faces toward me in mutual recognition. The keen of their pleading wails came to an end when I returned to my palace and bolted the door. The holocron revealed much about the creations of war beasts, but Ziot's breeding pens provided a more immediate education. What a delight to have landed amidst fellow twisters of life. Among the Kisai are the Ninish Wadzakut, whose title translates as Knotters of Entrails. Through alchemy and manipulated breeding, they have birthed many hungry creatures to toil and kill for the Sith. The Saluth are mutated from beetles. Long ago, the Sith scattered them across the world of Kalsunor. The click of their mandibles became a dire drumbeat. These tank-sized scavengers can still be found on the planet, melting its ruined cities with sprays of acid. The Sith keep swarms of them in reserve for another campaign. During the same war that birthed the Saloof, the Sith introduced the Warbird and the War Behemoth, mainstays among the Massassi infantry even today. The Warbirds are used as mounted assault avians that can carry a rider into battle and rip apart enemy soldiers with their beaks. The gargantuan behemoths are used a little differently, as troop carriers or walking weapon platforms. The guardian beasts called Tukata stand watch over the tombs and protect them from desecration. They have long been the royal companions of the Sith kings. They possess great tactical intelligence and can live for centuries without feeding. I would have died in the tomb of Din Glut had I not fed a Sith slave to the Tukata. The dark side dragons known as Hissis feed on rage and carry a toxin that can infect a victim with blood frenzy in a single bite. The hatchlings of these beasts are exquisite. They crawl from their shells only after a throng of Darksiders have been murdered in their presence. Among the more recent creations of the Kisai is the Talantatek. What a marvel of raw gluttony. The Talantatek feeds on the Force-rich blood and thus hunts Sith purebloods exclusively. The Sith use them against enemies, yet fear the inevitable retaliation. A curious two-headed reptilian creature was recently birthed from the offal of 10,000 sacrificial birds. It is armed with a poison-tipped tail. I have classified it as a battle hydra, but I have yet to name the creature. My slaves are building an aviary for my flea specimens. Some beasts are built to tear down enemy fortifications, as my leviathans and the chrysalides are. These Sith beasts are nature advanced to perfection. I do not know which animal produced the first stock, but the chrysalides we have in the Sub-Zero paddocks are nothing but teeth, claws, bulk, and sinew. Also among the Sith stronghold are the war worms. I recognize these creatures of Flawn by the shape of their siege weapon. It has been grown to such a size that it could span the highest of Coruscant's spires. I am eager to test one against the ramparts of the Jedi Temple. None of these creatures arise from nature. They are bred for their extreme forms. Breeding has limits, however. It takes generations, whereas alchemy is immediate and forever. Through alchemy, one uses the Force to effect a change on the physical. I was the greatest of the Master Summoners who fought in the 100-year darkness. My inspirations came to me in rumors and dreams, and only now, in the minaret of Ziost, do I realize it was the call of the Sith all along. Sith alchemists have had ages to perfect their art, and their knowledge is now mine. Sith alchemy is applied to both the living and the non-living. Each is a distinct discipline of study, with the latter being better suited for new apprentices. Alchemy on the non-living is far simpler, because there are no living cells to resist you. This science is used to create amulets and enhance weapons. Any object touched with alchemical science will become Force-sensitive itself, forever retaining a mirror imprint of its forger. Alchemy on the living is suited only for masters. The subject's own Force energy will fight you as you twist and shape the host. By recasting the shape again and again, you will get a Leviathan. Alchemy is my science, yet I have found the Sith purebloods possess a new understanding of how to manipulate the dark side. I sought the secrets of spellcasting in my pilfered holocron, but its guardian was jealous. Casting my net wider, I recovered scrolls submerged in the blood slurry of the mongrel altar. They were concealed behind a mural of King Adas at the Eternal Pyre, interred alongside the headless body of Wirmuk the Undying. Reading one of those great scrolls invariably unleashed a curse. I have found that the longer I must fight off horror, blindness, or liquefaction, the more valuable is the information the scroll contains. It is not sufficient to simply use Force powers, as the Jedi teach. Ritual gives spellcasting added power. Memorize the incantations, speak them with conviction, and weave the invisible lines of power through gesture. Through this, I have changed the world in ways my teachers never imagined. Sutta Chwitsuskak, or Bolt of Hatred. By focusing your rage on the ones who stand against you, you can conjure a spear of dark energy to pierce their flesh. Odojinya, or Dark Side Web. With quick and precise finger slashes, you can spin a tracery of force tendrils to block a sword or bind a foe. Kazoi Kayanatsuka, or suppress thoughts by first addling your victim's brain and then supplanting the quieted thoughts with the sound of your own voice. You can control the will of another. Duomutsiksa, or summon demon. By concentrating on the air and energy around you, you can call forth a manifestation of the dark side. A dream beast has no true form. Its shape is whatever its victims fear most. A smoke demon can travel as wind-blown miasma or coalesce into solid form when commanded to attack. It can vaporize the body of a victim by entering its nose or mouth, though it is vulnerable to force-based counterattacks. Isai Winoka, Oyakutsu, or Reanimated Dead. This complex spell animates both the freshly dead and the skeletons of the Carrion's fields, transforming them into an unstoppable legion, impervious to pain and able to transmit a necromancy infection by biting. I would have taken pleasure in meeting with Dafka Glaush, who died decades before our arrival, though he is gone. It was he who melded alchemy and spellcasting to perfect necromancy. Words have power. Proof is in the Sith scrolls I acquired. When read, they release malevolence as a safeguard against those who would unlock their secrets. Better to leave hundreds blinded with a binding curse than surrender power to a single fool. The abilities described in the ancient Sith language are new and astonishing. It is clear that in all the eons since the Jedi left Typhon, they have never divined the value of incantation. When a Sith sorcerer speaks, he gives voice to the 1,000 mages who went before him. If armed with the proper commands and trappings, the dark side can be bound, leashed, and led down any path of your choosing. Sith spells that require vocalization are written in the Sith tongue and consequently must be pronounced as such. Be aware that it is more than recitation. Your inflection must be both precise and passionate. Speak with hesitation and the spell may haunt you instead. Most incantations have a specific meter and rhyme and thus cannot be modified. The most complex incantations unleash spells of volcanic intensity. Spells, however, require time to prepare and to recite. They are challenging to use during combat. Sith kings often remove their best sorcerers from the battlefield scrum, positioning them atop high parapets where they rain curses upon the enemy's legions below. The potency of incantation can be enhanced with amulets and runic raiment. Robes known as the Wraps of Frost are inked with hexes and draw power from the mummy they shroud. For 100 years, that power grows as it steeps in the mummy's dark energies. A single, unifying code can be derived from the Sith philosophy. The Jedi have a code and we exiles know it well, but we also know it is full of inadequacies and half-truths. The Sith purebloods require no mantra to remind them how to live. They simply take what they can, kill what they don't need, and use everything to its fullest. They are ruled by the fittest and are a model of what the dark side can achieve. There is knowledge to be gained from their example. If we were to create a Sith code, it must point to the failings of the Jedi beliefs, while laying bare a path to mastery of the Force. It is plain that fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hatred leads to power, and power leads to victory. Rage channeled through anger is unstoppable. The common edition of the Codex of Master Simakati translates the Jedi Code thusly: there is no emotion, there is peace. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no passion, there is serenity. There is no chaos, there is harmony. There is no death. There is the Force. This code confines its adherents. Peace, serenity, and harmony are restatements of the same thing, the passive acceptance of limitations. The Jedi encourage this. But passion will always defeat peace. As we build our empire here on Ziost, our successors will hold true to the Sith code. Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me. I know the Jedi myth of Mortis, of a chosen one who will destroy the dark side and bring balance to the Force. The Sith have their own prophecy. Since the time of King Adas, they have foretold the coming of a perfect being, the Sith'Ali. The avatar around my neck translates the term as Overlord, yet it is more accurate to consider the Sith'Ali a god, as the Sith purebloods believe. While some among the Kisai priests deem that the prophecy began and ended with Adas, many more await the Sith'Ali's return. It has not escaped us that we could claim the Sith'Ali mantle and exert even more power over Sith space. Yet such a move could backfire among the superstitious. Not even a Junta Paul is so careless. The prophecy of the Sith'Ali has been passed through verbal tradition. It is too sacred to be inscribed on a scroll's parchment. From the Kisai, I have learned its essence. The Sith'Ali will be free of limits. The Sith'Ali will lead the Sith and destroy them. The Sith'Ali will raise the Sith from death and make them stronger than before. I admire the first tenet, because breaking chains is the essence of the dark side and the foundation of my own Sith code. Improvement through sacrifice and rebirth resonates among these people who prize breeding and alchemy. Though I have never put my faith in farseeing, I remain convinced the Force called me here. Perhaps I am the Sith'Ali. Troops from Engimon. I will not allow the Jedi to eliminate us by assaulting a secure fortification in overwhelming numbers. The Sith will not repeat the mistakes of Botha Wui. Despite our setback, the will of my army remains strong. We have been deployed to Ord Radama. Our bivouac is secure, and I have a moment of quiet. We arrived here 4 days ago. The dropships touched down under heavy fire, and I led the disembarkation alongside Darth Venomol. Our lightsabers provided a sufficient screen for the single-file lines of infantry behind us. We charged the heavy guns embedded in the cliff face, and they roared to life in response. When both transports exploded at our backs, I knew the Republic's gunners had chosen the wrong targets. We had several critical seconds before they could ready another shot. By that time, we had reached the cover of the rocks at the cliff's base. Had they fired at the 2 Sith Lords leading the way, our assault would have ended there. Not even I can deflect a cannon burst from a Merson bellower. I ordered Lord Venomol to leap onto the shelf from which the cannon barrel protruded. Moments later, the machinery fell silent and he signaled the all clear. The commandos fired their ascension hooks and joined him on top. Leading the remaining troops up the mountain trail, a tremor in the Force echoed through me. The defenders of Ord Radama had placed mines on the path. Enraged by such cowardice, I hurled a boulder from the mountainside onto the path in front of us. I then slowly rolled it 20 paces ahead of our own progress. Using focused mental energy channeled through the dark side, the stone detonated each of the mines and scattered a nest of ambushes. My fire troopers took care of them with the spray of their flamethrower. We rejoined Venomol's team at the mountain's crest. His commanders had swept the Republic stronghold, leaving no survivors. I had to congratulate their thoroughness. Our communications officer signaled the Lindworm, and the rest of our troops landed on the field we had just secured. From start to finish, we lost only 2 dropships and their crews. This evening, as my soldiers readied their gear, I summoned them to bolster their spirits. Standing atop a siege tank, my mighty call echoed for kilometers. You are servants of the Emperor and of the Empire. You are the engine of conflict. You are transforming the galaxy. The soldiers raised their weapons and their voices in agreement. Our progress has been swift. We will soon take the capital city of Livian Magnus. The capital city of Livian Magnus has fallen. I have brought glory to the Empire, but my satisfaction was cut short by the arrival of Lord Adras. Lord Adras arrived 2 days ago, sent by the Dark Council to assist in our operations. His presence and the Council's decision anger me. Our siege of Livian Magnus had only been in effect a week. Hardly enough time to declare it a stalemate. The city would have fallen when its people starved. Was that not the strategy behind the Mandalorian blockade, which the Dark Council orchestrated? The tactic choked traffic along the Hydian Way and made our current campaign possible. Yet the Council dares to hint that I lack courage. Worse still is Adras's smirking confidence during our strategy sessions. How I hate that weakling who seeks his own advancement over the goals of the Sith Empire. Adras brought 10 platoons of war droids, roughly half of them Mark I models and the other half Mark IIs. Adras is confident these droids can blast through the city's perimeter defenses and clear a path to the shield generator that is covering the city in a protective energy canopy. I do not disabuse him of this notion. I know Mark I war droids are well armed, with rapid-fire twin blasters attached to each arm. Mark II droids have similar weaponry and better armor, but neither model is nimble. The colicoid insects that built them installed a pointy-legged, shuffling locomotion system that leaves them vulnerable to flanking maneuvers. Venimal and I have both witnessed this weakness. So with a small nod towards Lord Venimal, we agreed with Lord Adras as he announced his intention to stage an assault on the southern gate. We watched as the war droids were sent into battle and were chewed to shrapnel in the crossfire of the Republic's entrenched infantry. But the failure did not provide a distraction. With the enemy's attention focused elsewhere, Lord Venimal led his commandos over the western wall and blasted a hole from the inside out, enabling the rest of our troops to pour into the city. We shut down the shield generator in less than an hour. I then called in air support to shatter all remaining pockets of resistance. Should it surprise me that Lord Adras claimed credit for the victory when he reported the news to Darth Angral? No, I am not surprised. I am disgusted. We will lose Ord Radama if we are not resupplied. That fool Adras is gone, slinking back to Drummond Cars to curry favour with the Dark Council. Meanwhile, Lord Venimal and I are left here to carry on our work, defending the city from agitators. Our numbers steadily dwindle. The essential quality of the Force is conflict. Through conflict, the strong kill the weak and bring the living closer to perfection. The Sith Empire has served the Force by inciting conflict, but for true improvements to take place, I must at least give my soldiers a fighting chance against the enemies who seek to destroy them. The Ministry of Logistics is responsible for our resupply, but my influence with Minister Kamar has never been strong. She is a favourite of the Dark Council and rewards the needs of Drummond Cars above all others. I, instead, have sent my request to War Minister Sorzus, but have received no answer. Politics sicken me. Begging for resources from a bureaucrat is not a fitting role for a Sith Lord. All such functionaries should be honoured to do my bidding and should scramble to see it done. For we Sith Lords are elevated above the non-Force users who staff our galactic regime. But neither Minister Sorzus nor his Grand Moffs can do anything for me if other Sith Lords have already placed claims on his resources. The glow lantern on the ration crate has dimmed to nearly nothing as I write these words. The rattling bursts of the cacophonizer shells have quieted into a far-off rumble. I think of you, Alina, as ever. The rage within me ignites when I think of how you have been kept from me. All aliens are slaves under the Sith Empire. Every resource must be exploited when the cause is total victory. But you, Alina, have proven yourself as a servant and as a fighter, and perhaps as something more. When I have achieved all I envision, I will have any companion I wish. Not even the Emperor would dare command otherwise. Disaster. We have abandoned Ordre Dharma. Venimal is dead, and so is the legion of troops under my command. My resupplies never arrived. No doubt Minister Sorzus felt Lord Adras or some other dilettante should be well armed for another needless inspection tour. Through his incompetence, the Empire is losing its hold on the systems we have only just secured. Imbeciles, all of them. I hear that even the Mandalorian blockade is crumbling, because of the two smugglers allied with the Republic. If the Hydian Way is reopened, the trickle of Republic reinforcements that retook Ordre Dharma will become a flood. The Battle of Ordre Dharma was not lost on the ground. Venimal and I could have held the capital city indefinitely, armed with only our lightsabers. But in orbit overhead, we had only the dreadnought Lindworm and 2 Harrower battlecruisers. In opposition, 4 Republic Hammerhead-class cruisers and 10 Franta-class corvettes dropped from hyperspace. They broadsided the Lindworm with a turbo-laser barrage before she could launch her starfighters. From the balcony of the palace in Livian Magnus, I saw the flashes of orbital combat as the comm erupted with static and anxious chatter. I boarded my shuttle, ordering Captain Khan to take me up to the Lindworm, where I could assume command. The captain performed with characteristic skill, evading the Republic's Aurek fighters and making a hard landing in the Lindworm's ventral bay. But by the time the turbolift got me to the bridge, I could see the battle was lost. One of our Harrowers gushed flames as it let loose a rain of escape pods. The other Harrower lay fatally stricken, its guts torn loose by a cluster of proton torpedoes. I could do nothing to halt its fall into Ordre Dharma's gravitational pull. Minutes later, it impacted at the center of Livian Magnus. At that instant, I felt Venimal and 100,000 other life forms roar with pain and then fall silent. The strength of my scream buckled the bridges, transparasteel viewport, and left the crew's ears bleeding. More gratifyingly, my rage overloaded the fuel slugs of an incoming wave of Aureks. The bright bursts of their deaths raised a smile. Nothing could be gained by remaining in the star system. I ordered the dazed navigator to maneuver the Lindworm behind the ion minefield and make the jump into the heart of Sith space. The Republic pursued us. The Mandalorian blockade has now fully crumbled. The enemy fleet has penetrated Imperial space. The Republic made a strike at Korriban, though they have threatened that world far too many times for me to consider it their true target.
so it was expected when their fleet jumped, but it is now gathered before Ziost. Our situation is dire, and victory hinges on space superiority. The Republic's capital ships have not broken our defensive line, but their small starfighters have easily slipped through our screen. The Battle of Ziost will be won by the pilots. Daily skirmishes take place in orbit and in the atmosphere, and each time, a few of the Republic's fastest interceptors and heavy bombers make it through our defenses to the treetops of Ziost. We have lost vital cannon batteries and weapon arsenals. Our only protection against the aggression is the skill of our Imperial pilots and the superior technology of our starfighters. Our ISF interceptors are lightweight and maneuverable, but though the interceptors are optimal for high-speed dogfighting, our B-28 starfighters fill the firepower gap with their heavy armaments. Our Fury-class interceptors act as a heavy transports, patrolling the borders of the fray to pick off any ship that tries to make a break for the surface. Darth Angral believes we are evenly matched with the Republic, and that we have arrived at an impasse. He is requisitioning more naval vessels from Dromund Kars. I have urged caution. A Jedi commander skilled in battle meditation could link warships and starfighters into a single mind, and the Jedi have other tricks that could turn the tide in their favor. We must now defend the heart of our own territory. I am enraged the Dark Council allowed the war to reach Ashash Ree, yet I must allow some measure of admiration for the way the Republic has outmaneuvered us. They made their first strike while Lord Angral's vessels were still gathered at Ziost. We arrived just in time to halt their advance on the central garrison. Do they think they can hold this world? Do they hope to fortify it as a staging point for a strike against Dromund Kars? Or is this a way to preoccupy our forces yet again, while they capture some other objective? I write from a clearing at the garrison's outskirts, amid the encampments of the planet's doctrinists, who desire a return to the Empire's isolationism. They have often stood in opposition to our Emperor, but today we are all Sith. I command a line of siege tanks positioned to hold off the Republic's armoured floaters that regularly prod our defences along the jungle border. Above my head, the energy shield protecting the garrison flares white with each impact of a mortar shell. Occasionally, a thundering turbo laser blast reaches us from the naval clash in orbit. I have learned that the Republic commander behind this bold move is Jedi Master Ven Zalo. Despite his allegiance to Jedi blasphemy, he at least appears to grasp the truth of improvement through combat. Master Zalo and those like him may yet realize their errors and join the Sith cause. Until then, I will do everything in my power to rid the galaxy of them. Ever since my vision at Korriban those many years ago, I have known that my destiny is to exterminate the Jedi and topple their obscene temple. The Battle of Ashash Ree is over, another victory for the Empire. And once again, the unworthy have sought status in the wake of this triumph. The Drass is nothing but a vile rootworm feeding on the carcasses of the beasts I slay. One day, I will no longer tolerate his antics. I will make him suffer. The Dark Council recognized the role I played in the planet's defense and has informed me through one of its agents that I will not again experience a material shortage like the one that cost us Ordra Dharma. The Council's approval is meaningless, but I will gladly accept its resources. I received word from Imperial intelligence that Jedi Master Ven Zalo and his forces are headquartered on Serena. That ancient world of noble houses would react too swiftly to a direct assault, so I have activated an infiltrator. The Emperor, in his wisdom, spent many decades installing Sith infiltrators into positions positions of power across the galaxy, long before our armada fired its first shot. Indeed, these agents turned the governments of Ruria, Zernpidal, and Belkadan to our cause. Their devious works allowed for the ambush of the Republic fleet in the Tinjal Arm, our first major victory in this war. Only a fraction of the Emperor's infiltrators have been activated to date, but Darth Kaba has gathered intelligence reports which indicate a high-ranking Serena noble who has the ear of Master Zala is secretly one of ours. There is urgency to this situation. However, information provided by high-ranking agents, ciphers they call themselves, suggests the Republic may soon move from Serena to a new forward base. If we do not strike now, we will lose our moment. The assassination of Master Zala and the disruption of the Republic's command structure must be carried out, but I have been told I must wait for one of the infiltrators to complete the mission, and so we wait for word of success to come through the Cipher network. My warships stand ready. I will not eat, drink, or sleep until we have joined battle. Denial quickens the senses and sharpens the mind. I must be in top form, for Serena is crawling with Jedi. The operation on Serena only partially succeeded. A subspace transmission from the ciphers announced that the infiltrator had struck. I ordered the fleet to make the leap. We surprised the Republic vessels and scattered them. We secured House Palermo's villa, which the Jedi had been using as a command post, but rage tore through me when I discovered the infiltrator's body lying in the banquet hall, cut in two by Zala's lightsaber, and Zala had escaped aboard one of the Republic's cruisers. Although Serena now belongs to the Empire, it does not accept us. Incredibly, the houses of Terama and Comprasi have hired mercenaries to evict us. I awoke last night to the sound of magnetic accelerator shells punching through the permacrete plaster of the villa's walls. Fortunately, I came to Serena prepared. The Dark Council supplied me with a squad of elite assassins. I have never desired their path. My power comes from fury, honed by combat. I prefer to smell the fear in an enemy's sweat, rather than manipulate him with spells from afar. But at that moment, I was glad to have the assassins under my command. From a parapet, I watched the assassins ring the villa and fan out in all directions. They lit up the moonless dark with blue flashes of lightning. Their commanders directed them toward the attackers, like bottlenecks pursuing a hunting quarry. The mercenaries abandoned their heavy weapons and fired back with antiquated pulse-wave pistols, a pathetic attempt with feeble weapons. Their screams soon ceased, and I secured a few more hours of sleep before sunrise. The Sith Emperor has ordered us to recapture Ord Radama. I will lead the attack. There are rumours that some blame me for the death of Lord Venimal and the defeat we suffered there. This campaign shall restore my honour and prove the fitness of the Sith Empire. I am leaving nothing to chance. Typical soldiers do not use the dark side, and Sith Inquisitors are too hands-off for my tastes. For this battle, I will command a regiment of 4 strong warriors. The methods and traditions of the warriors are my own. From my father's meditations on death to the lessons of my tutors in the Drummond Carr's Academy, I was nurtured by the dark side and grew strong. Others dull their senses with spice and drink, but warriors know that combat is the only experience to be savoured. Other Sith Lords keep their elite dark side warriors in reserve, far from the enemy, to preserve their strategic insights. What a waste! They have attained their rank because they have fought and won. To deny them the honour of combat is to call them useless. Not only is it an insult, it weakens the Sith Empire as a whole. I will lead the assault on Ord Radama's relocated capital city of New Raido. My warriors are experts in the art of wielding 2 lightsabers and are outfitted with combat armor newly manufactured on Balmorra. The armor is heavy, but warriors are capable of endless endurance. Droids, troopers, commandos, and more will follow after we breach the city's defenses. Imperial intelligence reports that the Republic has done little to fortify Ord Radama, and the natives have struggled to survive following the destruction of Livian Magnus. Our victory will hardly qualify as a conflict, but it will be enough. From Ord Radama, I will be able to seek new targets of conquest for the improvement of the Sith Empire. The reconquest of Ord Radama is entering its 51st day. A different commander would feel dismay at our loss of life, or at the way the Jedi confounded intelligence ciphers by remaining in disguise amid the planet's peasantry until we had launched our attack. Not I. This is exhilaration. An easy conquest would count for little, but this glorious bloodbath benefits both sides. The Jedi have always been our true targets, not the Republic's lowly troopers or the ragged insurgents of subjugated worlds. Now we have lightsaber combat and force dueling on a grand scale. With each corpse we create, we expose the lie of their offensive pacifism. Those who perish in our own ranks are like knots shaved from a stake of real wood. We grow sharper with each slice of the knife. The pace of this battle has cost me favour with the Dark Council and Darth Angral, but I will emerge victorious, and my triumph will ensure my place in the army that strikes Coruscant. This battle will not last much longer. During the last Great Sith War, the Dark Lord Exar Kun built a weapon of such power it could rip the life essence from an entire army. It was known as the Dark Reaper. Although it has been lost to time, the Dark Council believes its core mechanism is somewhere on Ord Radama. Just as we shall soon taste victory, we shall also soon discover this weapon. I do not care whether we deploy it here or on Coruscant. I serve the Emperor by cutting away the unworthy. Let there be no mercy for the Jedi. I am assembling a task force to stage a corward assault on Republic space. The Dark Council has placed the following assets at my disposal.
The rule of 2. Power of the Sith. The Force is not fire. It is venom. In that simple maxim is the entirety of Sith philosophy. What Lord Khan and my other, lesser predecessors could not understand is that such a fundamental truth is not evidence of insight on my part, but rather stupidity on their part. The Force is not fire. It cannot be passed from one user's lit torch to another's and another's until an entire hemisphere is illuminated with the blaze of a million lights. This is what Khan foolishly believed, and all Sith Lords before him, for the past 1,000 years. It is why the once mighty Sith fell apart long before the defeat at Ruusan. When all carry a flame, no matter how dim and guttering it may be, they soon conclude they are the brightest stars, around which all others must orbit. Infighting follows, and Jedi victory becomes inevitable. No, the Force is a venom. If it is poured into many cups, it loses its potency until it becomes so diluted it is merely an irritant. Yet pour those cups back into a single vessel, and you will have the power to stop a great dragon's heart. This is the secret. This is the rule of 2. One Sith must contain all the power of the dark side. One master must decide how that power shall be used. Sharing power is an act of weakness and a violation of the Sith Code. The link from master to pupil is the underpinning of our order. Yet, The Sith Order must survive after the Master perishes. For this reason, the Master must take an apprentice. The Master instructs the pupil, but never gives up the smallest sliver of power. The apprentice learns through years of study, but must struggle for every achievement. If the apprentice becomes strong enough, a battle to the death will prove it. If the Master should be struck down, the apprentice becomes the Master, and the Order continues. Together, the two may attract legions of minions, but true power will remain concentrated. Always two, a Master and an apprentice. The mistakes of Ruusan. All are equal in the Brotherhood of Darkness. Those putrid words fell from the lips of Lord Khan more times than I care to remember. This central lie, upon which Khan built his false Sith, is the reason behind their watery, diluted power. The so-called New Sith Wars lasted 1,000 years. Many warlords during that time sought to control the destiny of the Sith Empire. They achieved victories from the Battle of Mizra to the Sictus Wars, but those victories without a clear line of succession. Every Sith wanted to be king, and so we argued. While the Republic grew frail, its citizens sickened with plague, and became isolated by a decaying infrastructure, Coruscant's throat lay bare beneath our blades. But the Sith plunged their knives into one another's backs instead. Khan was not the worst of these fools, only the last. Khan created the Brotherhood of Darkness to end this squabbling, but he chose a false egalitarianism over a strong central rule. Within the Brotherhood, all members with rank call themselves Sith Lords. This was Khan's first mistake. I served the Brotherhood of Darkness as a sergeant, assigned to the Gloom Walkers, and led my comrades in the capture of Fazim. If we had maintained a sound military strategy and followed an orderly conquest, the Republic would have been ours. But Khan was impatient. He overreached and leapt into the Bonmias sector, the Republic's heart, before it was time. This was his second mistake. Khan's third and final mistake came at Ruusan, a worthless world where he hoped to defeat Lord Hoth and the Jedi Army of Light. He was instead goaded into a grinding land war of needless attrition. I watched it unfold and knew the Sith had become like the Jedi, too numerous and too weak. Khan had lost his grip. In the end, Khan followed my suggestion and pooled the abilities of the other Sith Lords to create a brute force wonder, the Thought Bomb. This was proof of what the dark side could achieve when it wasn't split among thousands. However, the Thought Bomb consumed not only the Jedi combatants, but also the Sith who had created it. It ended the war and exterminated Lord Khan's Brotherhood. The title of Darth. If my plan had not worked and Khan had not killed himself with the Thought Bomb, I would have been forced to kill him myself. The annihilation at Ruusan was a gift, wiping out all those who were not worthy. I, Darth Bane, and my apprentice, Darth Zana, survived and returned the potency of the Sith to our hands, so the rule of two could be instituted. It is no accident that I took the title of Darth when I gained a mastery of the dark side, nor is it an accident that Khan and his followers rejected it. It is a title of power, it carries authority, and is crowned by the judgment of history. It symbolizes transformation. When I took Darth as my title, I put away my childhood name. What does it matter that I was once a miner or a soldier? The only thing that matters is what I will achieve. Some believe the Darth itself is derived from the ancient Rakatan term Darta, meaning triumph over death, or Darida, meaning emperor. But the word's true meaning does not come from any language, but from the proud histories and accomplishments of those who have borne the title. Darth Andedu, the God King of Plagueis, who sought to live forever. Darth Revan and Darth Malak, who built a new Sith Empire that rivaled the Republic in its influence across the galaxy. Darth Malgus, who led his troops into the Jedi Temple during the sacking of Coruscant. Darth Ruin, who left the Jedi Order to pursue his monomaniacal philosophy of self-interest and gave rise to the 1,000-year war that concluded at Ruusan, and who was among the last to hold the Darth title, until I took it up again. Lord Khan preached that we were all equal in the Brotherhood of Darkness, but he did not dare to appoint 1,000 Darths. In fact, he did not permit the use of the title at all. Perhaps he sensed its inherent power, that an individual who held the title would not allow rivals to live. Perhaps its use would have forced Khan to confront the truth that his approach to the Force was a disgrace. I restore the title of Darth to the rule of two, so that only the worthy may hold it from this time until the end of time. Striking from the shadows. The Sith of old brazenly and publicly announced their superiority. In this they were correct. They were mistaken, though, if they thought no legion of enemies would rise up against them. The Sith have always been smeared as wicked, evil beings, no different from the cacodemons of children's tales who lurk in dark places with dripping fangs. Because submission to such horror is unthinkable, many believe they must fight or face extermination. The Jedi are shameless in spreading this alarmist propaganda. Under the rule of two, the Sith will operate in secrecy, feeding the belief that the Sith are a thing of the past, forgotten in their graves on Ruusan. We must not make our presence known. The dark side of the Force is finally concentrated. It gives the two beings unlimited power, but the Sith cannot afford the loss of either of you. Do not make yourself targets. Even a Sith Lord can be felled by 1,000 enemies. If there exists a single being who believes in the continued existence of the Sith, kill him. If a group learns the secret, you must resort to subterfuge and misdirection. At one point, the Jedi believed they had evidence of my own survival after Ruusan. My apprentice and I concocted a ruse in which she drove her brother insane and made him appear to be the terrible Sith Lord. This satisfied the Jedi need to assign blame, and they moved on. The Sith Order is now a lineage. Given your skills, you should find it a simple matter to amass wealth, and thus with each succession, the resources of the Sith will increase. Do not build palaces, for they will draw attention. Use your money to hire spies, scholars, assassins, trainers, guards, and thieves. All will prove useful, and the shine of credits will distract them from your true nature. Selecting an apprentice. Again, the Sith Order is a lineage. It must not end with you. I will not allow my new Sith Order to expire because you were unworthy or too protective to bequeath your power. Know this, your apprentice will kill you. If this fact frightens you, then the Sith Order has already suffered a fatal infection. Your existence in the Order is not needed. Your battle has already been lost. A Sith apprentice must grow in strength and skill until he or she can surpass the Master. Anything else is regression. What would you have the Sith become? Kings of Shokin whose dominion crumbled to ruin? Or do you believe you will simply live forever? You are not wrong to covet that secret, for I have sought to prolong my own life. But in the extreme, this leads to narcissism and a lack of focus on the rule of two. To be a Sith Lord is to outthink your enemies and to plan for any eventuality. A proper apprentice will ensure that the Sith endure, no matter what fate may come upon your head. Many Force-sensitive beings exist among the stars. Seek out those who have not yet been discovered or subjected to Jedi corruption. You will find it easier to mold the young, for their bodies and minds are still in flux. You may wish to train several candidates at once. Their rivalries will force their essential natures to the surface, making it unlikely they will join forces against you. Tell them only one will survive to become your apprentice. Let them defeat one another in combat, betray one another in their sleep, or play with one's suspicions and tensions. All are admirable skills for a future Sith Lord. Then watch as they destroy one another. I do not have the luxury of employing this method when selecting my own apprentice, but if she should prove reluctant to take my place, I will train a second apprentice to replace her. talented and the ambitious will receive their reward. The rest will taste only ashes. The Revenge of the Sith. Under the rule of 2, the Sith will concentrate power in one master and one apprentice, so that one day we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. Eventually, we will have revenge. Galactic civilization is an empty term where the civilization lacks leadership, given a clear vision and the means to enact it. A Sith regime could build great wonders in defiance of the natural laws of silence, stillness, and ruin. Khan was a fool, but he was right in one thing. The laws of the current Republic only abet these chaotic forces, and only the Sith way leads to mastery over entropy. The Jedi path teaches harmony and peace, but if all we aspired to was harmony, then intelligent beings would still be scratching for food from rotted tree stumps. The dark side of the Force is both an enabler and a guide. To advance the cause of the Sith, you must fight those who would hold back progress. You and those who succeed you are building an arsenal of dark side potency. One day, it will contain the power to destroy the Jedi and bring purpose to the Force. Remember the code of the Sith. There is no peace. There is only passion. In creating a new regime, the Sith will defeat the complacency of the Jedi. And what we create will be glorious. Personal combat. I have stated that the Force is venom. Because you are a Sith Lord, you realize the truth in my words. You cannot dilute our power. You must also keep yourself strong, not only in numbers, but in combat. The purest expression of victory is through combat. I will not permit my legacy to become a blurred copy of a copy. These pages contain what you must know if you wish to defeat an enemy with a lightsaber or the Force. Do not rely solely on what your own master has taught you. Study these arts. Drink directly from the source. Lightsaber construction. The lightsaber is the weapon of a Sith Lord. Properly wielded, it is an extension of your body, a limb that requires no conscious thought to move or position. If you lose your lightsaber, it should feel as if you have suffered an amputation. The Jedi also carry lightsabers. They harvest their lightsaber crystals from a mine. The Sith, however, have long had a superior alternative. Raw elements cooked in a brood furnace will produce an artificial crystal, one that can generate an energy blade that will burn with a bright crimson light. Because this artificial crystal is forged through dark side meditation, it carries the essence of your will. Know that your red blade is strong and can break the green and blue blades of the Jedi. Such results are proof that an individual can overcome anything found in nature. Sith lightsaber variants. The remaining components of the lightsaber can be assembled from everyday materials or the rarest of metals. It matters little, so long as the crystalline heart has been forged by your will. The other elements, a power cell, an emitter matrix, and a magnetic emitter ring or focusing lens, will be placed around the red shard within the hilt. The crystal is special, but these pieces are replaceable. Use them, replace them, but always ensure that the crystal and the blade are bright and strong. Depending on your chosen fighting style, you may incorporate innovations in your lightsaber hilt that will aid you. You should not care for ceremony, only for results. If an innovation works, do not hesitate to use it. If it proves superfluous, remove it immediately. Blade lock. A small notch added next to the activation stud will make it possible to leave the blade extended after it leaves your hand. This is useful for throwing, but can prove dangerous if the lightsaber is jarred out of your hands or buffeted with a force push. Pressure grip. This customization replaces an activation stud and ensures that the lightsaber will ignite only when held. If you align the pressure grip to your unique biology, you will be the only one who can activate it. Force activation. With this configuration, the circuit that connects the power cell to the crystal can only be completed with your mental energy. Only you can wield such a lightsaber, but if your attention lags during combat, the blade may blink off. Beskar hilt. Beskar, also known as Mandalorian iron, is resistant to a lightsaber blow. This material is extremely rare, but if you choose to incorporate it into your hilt design, it could be used to intercept a Jedi blade.
The Jedi teach 6 forms of lightsaber combat. This is excessive and a waste of time. There is no need for a Sith Lord to study any form that does not channel one's aggression. A battle should end quickly. At every moment, one should be assessing the ways to dispatch one's opponent. Select the most direct method. There are 2 key forms of lightsaber combat a Sith must master: strong style and fast style. The latter emphasizes footwork, speed, precision, and acrobatics, with some exceptions such as the tactics of my own apprentice. Fast style is rarely suited for a Sith. The dark side supplies us with strength, and that strength must be used. Hate makes us powerful. Strong style is expressed as Jemso, an ancient philosophy that requires you to combine your body weight and your muscular strength with the energizing drug of anger, so that your execution of your blows will land with enough force to crack armor. When used for defense, Jemso turns an attack back on the attacker. If you deflect a blade at a vulnerable angle, it will draw your opponent into close enough range for a gutting slash or an elbow to the face. Deflecting a blow may also draw your enemy into a blade lock, which is easily won with the strength of your arms and the power of your hate. Another facet of strong style defense is Cheyenne, or blocking incoming blaster fire. When generating this defense, some choose to use a reverse grip on the lightsaber hilt. Sith Cheyenne should also be a temporary measure, used only long enough to shorten the blade distance to your opponent or to recover from a kill so that you may find your next target. Deflecting bolts against your attackers can be useful, but be aware that this tactic is a waste of your physical prowess. Any combat situation or style can be enhanced by the use of Dun Mok. This tactic employs taunts and verbal attacks to weaken your enemy's will. It only takes a few words to expose your opponent's lack of confidence and to lay it out to manipulate. There is a third style, though it is exceedingly difficult. It is called Juyo, or as my Blade Master obscurely referred to it, Vapad. But it is a style the Jedi foolishly forbid. The key to this style is the same as our core belief. Emotion, not peace, will lead to victory. With Juyo, you must give yourself over to the sensations you feel in the heat of battle. Hatred for your enemies, fury toward their actions, and fear that they may prevail. Yes, fear. It is foolish to cover this emotion behind pride. Fear of death, fear of loss, and fear of chaos are primal motivators. Fear can be your fuel. Juyo is based on quick strikes and unpredictable attacks, but you are not fully embracing the style unless your emotions ignite your senses and elevate your abilities. But do not succumb completely to your emotions. You are a Sith Lord, not an animal. As you take aim and fight through the tunnel of rage, you will experience transcendence. In that moment, you are a perfect being, and you cannot be beaten. You are at last embraced within Juyo. Using the Saber Staff. The double-bladed lightsaber, or saber staff, has been known as a Sith weapon since the time of Exar Kun. I studied under the Blade Master Kasim and learned its secrets. It is a difficult weapon. The saber staff may be constructed as a single piece, or it may be simply 2 interlocking saber hilts that can be detached for two-handed combat. It is best used in wide, sweeping motions, while the hilt remains close to the body. It requires a firm stance and a two-handed grip. Novices are likely to injure themselves while training, which will expose the flaws in their techniques. Punishment can be a great teacher. Do not be confused into thinking they are 2 blades. The blades are connected. If you know the position of one, you know the position of the other. But while both blades are in motion, you can choose to extinguish one blade and surprise your enemy with a sword-fighting lunge or riposte. The saber staff is ideal for defeating multiple opponents, as well as for defending against blaster fire. The broad energy barrier created by a whirling saber staff is impenetrable when deployed by a skilled Sith Lord, one who possesses the precognitive ability to sense the timing and the vector of a threat. But this type of barrier defense should only be used temporarily, while you close the distance separating you from your attacker to deliver a fatal slash. Do not feel you must learn everything from your master, or that you must shoulder the burden of every instruction to your apprentice. The Elan Nova Guard, the Nikto Morgukai, and the Seyugi Dervishes have all elevated combat into an art form. Hire those who prove useful to your combat education, or employ them as assassins or guards. Among the members, look for those who may be touched by the Force. They could become your acolytes or a pool from which to pluck your next apprentice. However, if they learn more of our ways than you are comfortable sharing, kill them. Sith Armor. The war against the Jedi birthed great advances in personal combat on both sides. Armorers constantly improved their wares, but lightsaber technology remained constant. By the war's end, a fully armored Jedi Padawan could face a Sith Marauder and survive the first exchange. Donning armor requires understanding two things: how to kill an armored opponent, and how to use armor to protect yourself from counterattack. The first comes from combat training. The second requires an understanding of the materials that can withstand a lightsaber blow, while still allowing some measure of mobility for the wearer. If you are accustomed to unarmored sparring, it is best to begin with armor weave. This material incorporates lightweight metallic mesh while maintaining the flexibility of the cloth. Armor weave can be arranged to form pieces of fabric armor, or it can be worn as a cloak. It will guard against acids and flame. It can diffuse the energy of blaster bolts, though not their kinetic impact. A lightsaber's point can burn through armor weave, but it will allow you to shrug off glancing blows made with a blade's edge. Beskar Kandar is plate armor cast from Mandalorian iron. Although it is nearly impervious to a lightsaber blade, it is extremely heavy and requires the wearer to rely on a strong style, or Gemso combat stance. Unique to the Sith is dark armor, plate armor that is infused with the dark side essence through Sith alchemy. These suits, once rare, poured from the workshops of Sith armorers during the last war. Many became prizes for battlefield scavengers. Dark armor can almost certainly be found among the black marketeers of the underworld. If one is discovered, it should be reclaimed, and those who seek to profit from our legacy should be eliminated. The shells of obelisks are quite impervious to lightsabers and can make a fine coat of armor. I myself have tested this bizarre panoply. These parasites breed in the tombs of Duxon. If placed on the skin, they latch on, feeding on Force energy and releasing adrenaline. Once attached, their bodies can almost never be removed. The protection offered by armor can be augmented with a shield held in your offhand. A shield of polished Beskar can also be used as a bashing weapon. Its edges can be honed to razor sharpness and can be used to slice or kill. Dark side combat. You are a Sith Lord, not merely a fighter who knows how to hold a blade. The Force has given you the tools to defeat your enemies. During combat, the dark side crawls beneath your skin and electrifies the air surrounding you. If you fail to channel it during these moments, you are unworthy of the Sith title. There are 3 schools or focuses of Force combat that channel the dark side: offense, body, and mind. Study all 3, learn which to apply during the fury of the fight, and pass on what you have learned to your apprentice. None of this is to be kept for your own benefit. Remember, the Sith Order is more important than one Sith Lord. Offense encompasses the Force skills with immediate dynamic applications for lightsaber combat. All require relatively little exertion, so they can be easily applied at any moment. Think of offense as a dagger saved in reserve for a final thrust. The skills of offense include push, a kinetic wave that emerges from your hands or head and can knock a single enemy off balance or scatter a group in all directions. Choke, a telekinetic grip, which when centered on an enemy's neck can pinch off airflow and snap vertebrae. This requires more concentration than the push, as well as a free hand to form the control fist. The neck is an easy target because of its soft vulnerability, but strong users of the Force can crush an entire body, including armor. Inertia, an amplification of your body's momentum that uses the Force to redirect what looks like a lumbering charge into a hooking lunge. This can surprise an enemy by making your moves unpredictable. Blind. A burst of Force energy that can overwhelm an enemy's optic nerves and render them momentarily blind. Throw. A Force tactic in which you can control the path of your lightsaber when thrown. You can send it pinwheeling through clusters of ambushes before returning it to your grip. With refinement, the tactic can also be used to aim and accelerate any thrown object, such as a stone or a thermal detonator. The second school, or focus, body, encompasses those abilities that draw from the living Force. They emanate from your own cells and affect the physical structures of others. For this reason, any cyborg limb or enhancement will hinder your ability to conjure the effects of body. This is not your failing, it is a law of the living Force. The demands of the dark side can ravage flesh. But fortunately, it is possible to balance the scales by siphoning life from another to bolster your own. Lightning. A weapon that calls forth electrical bolts from your fingertips. It is an embodiment of your wrath that can strike at the heart of your enemy. The lightning crawls across the skin and sends surges of pain through the internal organs. Sustained exposure will roast flesh, calcify the skeleton, and stop the heart. Convection, a concentration of Force energy that can make your fists hot to the touch, even raise their temperature to a burning intensity, but will cause no lasting injury to you. Striking an enemy with these fists can raise blisters and set robes aflame. Cryokinesis, a siphoning of essence that leeches the life intensity from another, leaving behind a frost-shrouded corpse. Though this tactic usually causes the heat vitality of another being to hemorrhage, it is not possible to channel that vitality for your own use. Drain life, a delicate procedure that saps the life energy of another and funnels it directly into your own essence. It is extremely difficult to employ in combat, and is derived from the teachings of Jelashel, the Blasphemer, and the holocron of Darth Revan. The galaxy is choked with beings. Billions die every instant. It is better to make use of this resource. Death Field, an unstoppable concentration of dark side energy projected from your physical animus in the shape of a sphere. Any living being entering the field will wither into a dry husk. It is sustained by your will, but it will try to consume you as well. The third school, or focus, mind, encompasses those abilities that draw from the unifying Force. These operate on a different plane than the physical. They exist in the realm of thought and memory. The disciplines of mind require intense concentration and are mentally taxing. Physical strength will not help you here, only psychic clarity. Mind Shard, a sliver of psychic pain that is hurled from your own consciousness into your enemy's brain. If your attack succeeds, the intense agony will leave your opponent vulnerable to a lightsaber lunge. It can be difficult to establish a mental lock, but your success will improve if the ability is used in conjunction with the verbal taunts of Doom Mok. Memory Walk, a link that can open your enemy's mind and make it possible for you to compel them to relive tragic or humiliating recollections and bring forth layers of shame. Used for sustained periods, Memory Walk can be a sophisticated method of interrogation. The technique was stolen from the Guild of Vindicators, whose denizens are zealous about uncovering the sins of others. Hatred, a method of focusing your inner fire so that it can be stoked with outrage, disgust, and fear until it burns with white-hot intensity. When smashed, this furnace will radiate hatred from you in palpable waves that can send another's mind into catatonia. Like most tactics of mental combat, this works best against the weak-minded. Horror, a simple mental manipulation that can rise fear in the mind of another. By amplifying this primal emotion, you can trigger horror and eventually insanity. An afflicted target will be too haunted to raise any defense. Crucitorn, a technique that makes it possible to detach one's mind from coarse sensations. The secret to overcoming physical pain lies in the non-physical. A master of this technique will endure any torture and withstand any injury.
My sisters, the galaxy has taken note of us, and the powerful will pay for our service. Our skills are superior, honed on the wild beasts of Dathomir. The most skilled among our members will leave this world to act as the bodyguards and hunters of those who require the service. This will bring prosperity to your fellow sisters and honor to you. But during your time away, you must not forget what Dathomir has given you. Although space is cold and empty, Dathomir's wilderness is lush and rich. It may be years before you return, so never forget the place that birthed and nurtured you. You will always be a Night Sister. Among the galaxy's many species, you will encounter numerous beliefs, nearly all of them claiming to be the one true belief. Not all of these contradictory ways can be true. It follows, therefore, that none are true. That realization reaffirms the wild magics of the daughters of Alia. Our shamanism saturates the galaxy, influencing other traditions, even if their practitioners are unaware of it. It flows from a single wellspring, the life web of Dathomir. I have served as both the shaman and the clan mother of our Night Sister tribe for many years. Most of you have never known another in this role. Through my hands and eyes, the spirits have maintained their hold on our realm. It is a core truth of the Night Sisters that the spirit plane exists parallel to our own. It is inhabited by the essences of animals, nature's forces, and our own ancestors. Yet, it is ruled by the manifestations of female and male energy. The spirits bestow fertility upon our tribe and visit us when sickness and death come upon one of our sisters, as well as to claim the spirits of those who have fallen. Only here on Dathomir, however, are the two realms close enough for us to see their shapes, and only here is there an intermediary to act on the tribe's behalf. A shaman of the Night Sisters can cross the valleys of death and dream to carry messages between the spiritual and physical worlds. The spirits first called upon me as I lay cold and trembling, struck with a fatal affliction while birthing my first daughter. It was at that moment, suspended between life and death and bathed in the light of Dathomir's 4 moons, that I saw clearly the matching landscape of both realms. It was then that I grasped how living beings are but fleshy physical shadows of their spirits, and that spirits live on after their flesh has been cast aside. I passed the challenge. The spirits restored my health, and I willingly became their conduit. The spirits pull upon the folds of my robe as I walk, and echo beneath my voice when I speak. These writings are not merely my words, but the commands of the spirits. Challenge my authority, and you challenge life itself. Other groups, like those of the Jedi and the Sith, use strange cold terms to describe the work of the spirits. They talk of the unifying force and the living force of the light side and the dark side. We must forgive their ignorance, for they are not shamans of Dathomir. Their leaders cannot understand such concepts without enduring a trial such as mine. There is no need to separate what they call the living force from the unifying force. Both are manifestations of the twin deities, and both are vibrantly, overwhelmingly alive. This classification of light side and dark side is also misguided. Is it evil to kill? Would those who answer, Yes, be satisfied if predators starved so grazers could strip the land unopposed only to die amid famine. Is this the bloodless utopia envisioned by the moralistic Jedi? What the Jedi call the dark side, Night Sisters know to be the essence of life. Even some of our witch clans have made the same error as the Jedi, ignoring those spirits' voices that call for blood and labeling them as evil. My sisters, do not concern yourselves with dark side or light side. That is the language of the outsiders. Our abilities were bestowed by the spirits. The winged goddess and the fanged god bestow the passive and aggressive energies that animate every creature and allow each to draw breath. Would you choose to deny yourself? Do not limit your scope by obeying artificial rules. How do we know our homeworld is unique among all the other planets of the cosmos? I have shaman's eyes and I have seen the proof. I have watched the spirits travel from one realm to another by means of a smoky tether that is anchored in our forests. If you study the histories of the outsiders, you will find only validation of my words. Throughout recorded time, great civilizations have always been drawn to Dathomir. The packs of Roakwi, which hunt in the scrub fringe of the tar pits, are the primitive descendants of the intelligent beings called the Kwa. They once held the favor of the spirits. The Kwa built infinity gates to travel to the other stars, but their machines created unnatural voids and wounded Dathomir. Angry, the spirits summoned the Rakata Empire to demolish the Kwa. The spirits forced the Kwa back to their animal state so they might never again work technology. Over the millennia, the spirits called many other groups to Dathomir for purposes of their own. The Pessians came, made their homes here, and had many children. So too did the Sith. They recognized the raw power of Dathomir, but could not perceive its true shape. Many years after the Sith abandoned their Dathomir academies, the Jedi exiled one of their own to this world. You know her as Alia, mother of all witches. Alia held the favor of the spirits, and her daughters became the first crafters of spirit-willed magics. Centuries later, the Jedi returned. Their great training ship, the Chu Untor, was called to our shores, and the Jedi who came to reclaim it would not match our strength. Even their master Yoda, the strongest of all Jedi, abandoned the prize and fled. Few visitors have come to Dathomir since then, but the Night Sisters spread throughout the galaxy after I unified the clans following the defeat of Mother Zalem. By performing missions and services for others, we are making the galaxy aware of our ways and enforcing the will of the spirits. It is a blessing to be born on Dathomir, and a burden. We are the favored people of the spirits, and much is expected of us. We must not mar our home with the pollution of technology. We must obey our clan mothers and shamans. We must revere the rituals that bind the physical realm and the spiritual realms. With such simple edicts, it is disappointing that so many witches have failed to obey them. The writings of Alia teach that those who choose ignorance will never know greatness, and those who fear death will never achieve power. But after Alia's death, some of her daughters, perhaps weakened by the Jedi blood in their veins, added to Alia's words by introducing good and evil. They claimed Alia had espoused this blasphemy during the last moments of her life. These witches called this altered text the Book of Law. Those who rejected this altered text and held true to Alia's pure words became the Night Sisters. Our Night Sister ancestors were banished from the home clans for their beliefs, but among their fellow believers they restored the text to Alia's original teachings, to the balance of the physical realm and the spirit realm. They named their volume the Book of Shadows. In the past, competing Night Sister clans have coexisted, each led by a clan mother and a shaman, except in cases where the two figures are one and the same. But I have united my warring sisters into a single coven. Every witch of Dathomir knows that males lack the ability the females possess to balance the twin calls of the winged goddess and the fanged god. Males are simpler, more beast-like. We honor our night brothers, but among our clan we recognize that they serve the spirits better when kept in isolation. In the past, the other clans integrated their males as servants or slaves, but our night brothers are kept separated until summoned. In their compound, they naturally form a pack-like structure and channel their virile energy into combat training. In the spirit realm, the winged goddess appears as a blinding white griffin. It is she who governs fertility and growth, and she who acts as a mediator to reconcile wounded parties. She knows everything that has occurred and everything that is yet to come. Channeling the winged goddess brings forth great quantities of spirit ichor into the physical realm. This ichor appears as green smoke, but it can be given physical shape and mass as well as be manipulated in spellcasting by a gifted shaman such as myself. A skilled shaman may conjure objects from raw spirit ichor. The conjured object is everlasting and can take many forms, such as a hunting lance or a goblet of boiled blackroot. Divination and scrying are achieved by shaping the spirit ichor into a sphere and peering into its depths. Through scrying, a shaman can view events occurring anywhere in the galaxy. Divination, or heart shadow, calls forth visions of possible futures. Through this art, I have learned the fall of empires yet to come, and how to protect the Night Sisters from those who would seek to exploit us. In spellcasting, spirit ichor can become the waters of life and be used to heal wounds or restore memories. When used in conjunction with crafters chanting incantations, I can channel the ichor to rejuvenate the near dead by coaxing the injured spirit to merge from hibernation. Mesmerism is another gift provided by the spirit ichor. This power allows the shaman to override the thoughts of those weaker than oneself, particularly men and off-worlders. A tap of the fingertip to the victim's forehead will induce a trance-like state and make the victim powerless to refuse your commands. Another form of control is achieved by crafting a small statue of a victim, combining a strand of hair and rolling cauldron brimming with waters of life. This crude figure may then be stabbed with wooden needles and weakened with a breath of miasma. Any harm done to the totem will be felt by the victim it resembles, but nothing comes without a cost. The effort required of the shaman to summon such quantities of ichor can prove exhausting. I do not wish to disturb the winged goddess with endless supplications, but in times of severe distress, I have used the shaman's connection to directly invoke the spirits. When the call succeeds, the specters of long-ago warriors will glow into view. Hurled by a rush of wind, they will charge a target while uttering a shriek that emanates from every direction at once. The fanged god appears as a night black gargoyle in the spirit realm. He governs virility and the hunt. He also communicates smells, sounds, and tastes. He is the counterpart of the winged goddess, and is equally important to the governance of the spirit realm. As Night Sisters, you draw from both pools and thus keep the universal energies in balance. The magic of the fanged god is so powerful that channeling it can burst minor blood vessels in our physical bodies, raising telltale bruises on the cheeks and around the eyes. These marks were once considered scars of shame by the passive witches who revered the Book of Law, yet they are brands of honor. Our tradition of facial tattooing reclaims this history of ourselves and announces to the galaxy that we are Night Sisters. And while our Night Brothers are kept separated, they are marked as our kin and our warriors by the tattooing on their cheeks and faces. It is the fanged god who conjures the wild hunt each year when the moons are at their brightest and the snows have vanished from the slopes of the shattered ridge. I have seen the dark figures with glowing pale eyes as they gallop through the forest. I have heard their hunt calls as they carry those who cross in their path back to the abode of the ethereal riders. The fanged god is close to you at all times. He seeps through the border separating the two realms and does not require as much effort to channel. Every time you fight or feast or bleed, you are communing with the fanged god. As girls, you learn to speak with our planet's native rankers and to ride them. The realm beyond shadows contains a single Ur spirit for each of the galaxy's animal species. And just as you did with rancors, so can you do with the Ur spirits. Once you acquire the tongue of a particular Ur spirit, you can understand any creature of that type. Once you can communicate with the creature, you can calm it. Once you can calm it, you can control it. The most skilled Night Sisters who study this art hold the rank of Beast Warden. Because the fanged god governs the hunt, he is present during tracking, sacrifice, and the drinking of blood. He can sharpen your perceptions to set you on the path of the most elusive prey even when you are far from Dathomir. It is he who gifts us with the blood trail, a technique in which you place a drop of your own blood on your target and use that to link to track your quarry across the stars. It is a technique known only to the Night Sisters. As clan shaman, it is within my power to entreat the spirits. Because the Night Sisters are their favorite children, they may agree to empower a receptacle in the physical realm where their essence will sleep until summoned. These receptacles, crafted by shamans into talismans and totems, may hold their power for generations. Talismans are often gems set in rings or pendants. Totems are carved objects depicting an animal or a spirit entity. When kept within a dwelling, these objects offer a blessing to all who pass through the doorway. Those who swallow a totem will release all its energy into themselves, though their omnipotence will last only moments. For when the spirit is released from the object, it returns to the spirit realm and reduces the body to ash. Talismans of transformation allow the wearer to change shape in the physical realm to become an animal and tap into the animal spirit's essence. For example, the Night Sisters possess several talismans of transformation. The Bolma, the Braccaset, the Ilo, and the Burra fish. One of our sisters has yet to return the talisman of the raven. The talismans of age taps into the animal nature of human and briefly restores the vigor of youth. Talismans of finding are shaped to resemble a compass and will guide the user to any target that has been imprinted upon it. Talismans of resurrection can bring the spirits of the dead back to their physical bodies. It is vital to remember, however, that if much time has passed, their forms may be a little more than fetid skeletons. Finally, talismans of counterspell offer protection from the magics of others by deflecting curses back onto their casters. Totems of the elementals can summon night, sunlight, smoke, ice, flame, clay, and wood rot. These are powerful primal entities, so they may not always obey your bidding. Totems of familiars are more welcoming. They will call an animal to your side and hold the animal there as long as you possess the totem. The summoned beast is blessed with magic. The energies of these familiars help crafters accomplish some of the most difficult magics. The living creatures of our home are too numerous to name. They create a life web that is stronger than those found on any other planet in the galaxy. This is because Dathomir is a conduit to the spirit realm and the keystone upon which all reality is balanced. Skilled Night Sisters can channel the abilities of Dathomiri beasts they have never met simply by recognizing their spirit sense. While you're in other parts of the galaxy, it is essential to your success that you frequently reacquaint yourself with our brother and sister animals. When you know their natures, you can better channel their qualities. The practice will also re-establish your connection with the life web. If you have spent too many days among the machines of the off-worlders, especially the accursed mausoleum of glass and steel called Coruscant. The great Rancor is the ruler of all beasts on Dathomir, spawned from the ferocity of the fanged god and the insight of the winged goddess. It is a fierce fighter that rakes with its claws and tears with its powerful teeth. Yet, Rancors are wise and tender towards their own. Their arms help them swing through the canopy to hunt screeching purballs, and their massive legs propel their lumbering runs when they pursue fleeing Bolma herds. Their Night Sisters connect with them, speak to them and ride them. Be like the Rancor and you will hold authority in any confrontation you face among outsiders. The Drebin and the Surians are also major predators on Dathomir. Their thick hides allow them to ignore most irritants, and other creatures have learned to back away when they see one of these creatures for fear they will disappear in a snap of teeth. Like the Drebin and the Surians, we do not need to change or accommodate those smaller and weaker than us. Other beasts of the wild that do not have the biggest muscles or the sharpest claws possess more devious methods to achieve their ends. The artery worm strikes from inside, traveling the bloodstream and killing its host in an exquisite agony when it reaches the heart. The Voritor lizard and the Kodashi viper trade size for poison and announce their malevolence with bright colors and vivid patterns. Remember this when donning the clothing, markings, and weapons of a Night Sister. An intimidating appearance will frighten away those who are not fully committed to a fight. Every time we eat the meat of a woofa, worm, or wear its skin, we are reminded that life is connected. Look at the gibbet bird, which picks the scraps from the Rancor's teeth. The Rancor is cleaned and the bird is fed, and both parties benefit. Like the wild animals, regardless of size, you are never defenseless. Small threats can be deadly threats. Consider the sparkfly, which has a sting that contains all the energy of the sky's lightning, or the scissor fist, which has claws that when latched onto an attacker's skin can never be pried apart. Even the mighty rancor may be felled by sheer mites, which can chew through its hide with their acid-laced mandibles. Do not fear your enemies. Life always persists. Even a savage, blood-drenched death only returns your spirit to the realm beyond the shadows. The echoes of the fanged god can be heard throughout the air of Dathomir, from the sound of the snuffling mooks hidden in their lairs to the screeches of the Archixes circling their eyries atop the singing mountain. The Ur spirits of animals are red and raw, but the twin spirit of plants pulses with a deep green. You are an animal yourself, and still a part of Dathomir's life web, even when you find yourself inside a hollow metal starship around a cold star. You can always tap into the power of the spirits. Fan the fires of your bestial nature, and you will share the abilities of the beasts themselves. Predators possess a degree of awareness that we do not, by invoking the ability known as the sense of the Wushit. You will distinguish scents carried on the wind from hundreds of meters away, and you will be able to see into the blackness even when the moons have hid their faces. If you invoke the ears of the Chirotics, you will hear whispers and be able to paint pictures of hidden places from their sounds. Some beasts must be nimble to avoid predators, as well as to catch their prey by invoking the speed of the Tukcha. You will be imbued with short bursts of blindingly fast speed and energized leaps to cover remarkable distance. Both can be useful for escape or surprise. Invoking the touch of the Kindre applies a binding force to your hands and feet, enabling you to scramble up a cliff or to hold a weapon in a grip no one can break. The Wufa's power of regeneration has a host of combat uses. The revitalization of the Wufa can refresh the body, or if one's will is sufficient, allow the regrowth of a limb. The scream of the Saurian can bring forth the deep, thrumming vibrations of the great dragon's hunting call, as well as the ear-splitting shriek of its territorial warning. When directed at an enemy, the wave of sound will pop eardrums and shatter teeth. Compared to the animal essences, the green spirits of the plants are quieter and more content, but they are not without uses. Invoking them will generate the calming aura of meditation, or break down a poison once it has infected the bloodstream. With Surge of the Briar, you can reach into the spirit realm and grip the essence of a sessile plant. Pull and twist the plant's physical form into a shape of your choosing. By doing this, you can wrap enemies in vines or impale them with thorns. Even weather has a spirit. Its formless expanse glows with the blue-black hue of the heavens before moonrise. The aspect of the storm will allow you to shape this inky fabric into the bright white threads of lightning strikes. Deeper summoning will bring winds that can carry you through the sky. The air may also carry you aloft within a green sphere of energy, just as foam rises from a churning waterfall. Within this bubble, you are protected from enemies while hurling lightning on their heads. The means to produce the finest warriors and assassins in the galaxy are at our fingertips, and they have commanded the highest price on the galactic market. Our abilities are paying off. If you have left our fold, know that your service sustains us and validates our traditions. You are an agent of the Night Sisters, and more must follow in your path. If you do not have a current assignment, you should train others to achieve your rank. All Night Sisters and Night Brothers have trained since they were young to use our weapons: the pike, the mace, the spear, the axe, and the chain sickle. Those worthy to become warriors or assassins must be tested to prove their skill. In the arena of the Crucible, the candidates face 3 tests: the test of Fury, Night, and Elevation. Any who fails a test will be eliminated. In the test of Fury, the candidates are pitted against one another or against their instructor. Some may form alliances for advantage, whereas others may stand alone against all challengers. Either response is useful in determining a candidate's temperament for battle. When the moons are low and all light has been extinguished, the test of night may be held. The candidates fight much like they do in the test of Fury, but without eyesight. Some candidates may exhibit preternatural senses or a gift for stealth. Some may even have the presence of mind to channel ears of the chiroptics. During the test of elevation, the Crucible's moving pillars are activated. Combatants are left unsure of their footing as if fighting on shifting sand. Those with cunning will use the stone blocks as cover for ambushes. Those with aggression will use the high ground to pounce upon their enemy. Those most skilled candidates will not only survive the Crucible, but will dominate the battles. These are the most fit for a future off-world assignment. Those who pass the test of the Crucible may be suited for further training. There are 3 categories of skill we offer off-world clients: Hunter, Warrior, and Shadow Killer. But no matter what your role, you should always wear the clothing and the counterments that brand you as Dathomiri, for through your visibility, our reputation will spread. Hunters should wear the red hoods and the robes like the blood trail they follow, as well as black wrist wraps to protect from the sting of their weapon. A hunter wields an energy bow with a plasma bowstring and arrows of the same material. The energy bow can fire plasma arrows unerringly at any target, and its bowstring can blind or burn should you need to use it as a bludgeon. It is a specialty weapon. Therefore, it is vital that our clan be supplied with a standard 9 credits from every 10 you earn, so we may continue to outfit you with the equipment you require. Shadow Killers are assassins. They wear black wraps of the night and carry silent weapons such as the dagger and the poison dart. It is an art to become one with the dark. Shadow Killers can also be aided by the spirit ichor. Shamans, such as I, can conjure a mist that allows our Shadow Killers to operate midway between the physical realm and the spirit realm. Our warriors wear the cuffs and shoulder armor of those who have withstood the Crucible. Their weapons, such as pikes, are infused with powerful magic and can cut through any substance. Through the magics of the Fanged God, a warrior can be transformed into an avatar of primal anger. This requires the skill of an expert shaman and a full coven of crafters. By conjuring green spirit ichor and channeling the rawest hatred, the energies can be siphoned into hulking muscle and bone. A transformed warrior will be massive, standing a head taller, boasting a broad chest and spine-crushing arms. A proud Zabrak of the Night Brothers will grow a crown of horns to rival that of a Verni buck in autumn. Although the Crucible tests a candidate's skill, it is not the end of their training. It is a second beginning. Candidates who reach this point are skilled in combat, but they lack the subtle touch needed to channel the abilities of the spirits. Emotion is a powerful catalyst that connects you to your bestial essence, and by extension, to the ore spirits that rule our natural impulses. To strengthen these abilities, order candidates to accomplish a task that requires utter concentration. Then distract them with mocking taunts and the agony of a barbed lash. There is no shorter path to the revelation that is not peace but passion that leads to achievement. Train your students well. It has been foretold by Alia that a perfect being will one day arise, one brought into existence by the spirits, and one who will embody the balance between the winged goddess and the fanged god. Perhaps it will be you who will train this champion. Perhaps it is you. We reject the term dark side, but it is commonly applied because of the cultural pull of the Jedi and the Sith, those who use the powers of the supernatural, or, as others call it, the Force, in order to kill at their employer's behest are considered darksiders. It is clear that if we are to be thus classified, we should market ourselves as such. You will find yourself among many who do not understand our traditions. They may call you Sith or any number of other prominent traditions. Use this chance to set the Night Sisters apart in the minds of those who hold power. Only by promoting our unique skills will we be able to continue to command a premium price. The prophets of the dark side are similar to the Sith in many ways. They break away religion splintered from the teachings of a Sith Lord, Darth Millennial, but the prophets are not warriors. They claim to possess unparalleled skill in fortune-telling, and some have approached our clients promising to reveal the outcome of galactic events yet to come. I doubt the spirits whisper to them with any clarity, and only a witch in the grip of insanity would be charmed by their religion. I suspect their pronouncements are empty shells made from self-fulfilling statements. Plant this seed of doubt if the opportunity arises. New claimants to the dark side tradition have arisen from the farthest reaches of the galaxy. The Kanzir Exiles are a group of reptilians from the Val Taulu Rift who claim allegiance to their Lord Ravager. And the Knell of Muspili is a death cult that dwells amid the moon trees of the Guninga Gap. Whether these groups are true representatives or merely opportunists, it's unclear. However, their claims to power are quite specific. The Kanzir Exiles assert that they have the power to enslave many minds at once. The Knell alleges to have the abilities to summon apocalyptic deities from the realm beyond shadows. If their group should fail to fulfill these declarations, we will have our evidence to expose its members as frauds. The most enigmatic of the new competitors are the Sorcerers of Rand. They claim a kinship with the dark, which they view as the embodiment of decay and death. A true sorcerer is said to be able to use a psychic blast to eradicate an object or a living being. They are not believed to operate outside the Nihil Retreat, but make an effort to learn more of their ways if you can. Other groups have been in this game of the dark side mercenaries for centuries, far longer than the Night Sisters. These are our prime competitors. Do what you must to dissolve their hold among the powerful of the core and rim. The influence of the Tapani sector's royal houses is strong. Among House Meseti's nobles, there are those who claim affinity with the Sith, and whose ancestors triggered the cleansing of the 9 houses, which not only destabilized an entire quadrant of the galaxy, but swallowed 3 other noble houses. The agents of House Meseti belong to the Mekrosa order. They specialize in assassination. I know our skills are superior, for I sent 3 shadow killers to the Pela system to test their skills. 2 of ours returned, but none of the Mekrosa opponents survived. The Black Guard operates from the molten world of Mustafar. They are largely recluses and have sought dark-side lore since they emerged from the ruins of Sith philosophy after the Battle of Rusa nearly 1,000 years ago. The Black Guard clings to the principle that acquiring knowledge is superior to exerting physical power. It makes them a careful and cautious rival, for now they are too isolated to factor into our plans. The Shapers of Crovar are few in number, but they profess to be shamans of a similar tradition to our own. I do not doubt that they have gained a small glimpse into the spirit realm, but they are not native to Dathomir. They cannot have heard the call of the spirits as clearly as we have. The Shapers of Crovar use dark magic to manipulate the elements of air, earth, water, and fire. They have recently made their services available to buyers in the Marzun sector. Only the clan mothers may broker the services of the Night Sisters, but not all Night Sisters have equal expertise. We will not repeat the mistake of Shaman Yansu Jiriak, who too eagerly sold the services of her clan to separatist buyers and then could not protect her sisters from the Jedi counterattack. By offering your services, you agree to perform any mission on your client's behalf, provided it falls under the terms brokered by the clan mother. The Night Sisters will not tolerate dishonor, no matter who provides the funding. Those who treat us as if we were primitives to be swindled will be punished, a warning to others and future evidence of our lethal attitude.
What is the Force? The Jedi say it is created by life, but I say the Force creates life. It is a simple deduction, an obvious conclusion when supported by structural experimentation. Yet, consider this. The galaxy's leading scientific minds are largely ignorant of the Force, and the galaxy's most skilled Force users reject science. The latter are caught up in romantic mysticism, convinced that they have been called by a higher power. The former have no excuse. Thus, I will be the first to pursue this line of inquiry. A scientific understanding of the Force is not the same as memorization of incantations. Science seeks to understand the principle behind the reaction, not merely how to replicate it, particularly when the formulas for the reaction are bloated with centuries of empty ornamentation. To study alchemy, one must strip away its rhythmic phrases and its perverse obsession with blood sacrifice. To study a shamanistic talisman, one must look beyond the words of invocation. When a talisman unleashes its power, what is the true trigger? The words? The speaker's tone? His mental state? If a talisman's power resides inside the gem, what will happen if a fragment is shaved off, then another? Does the energy dissipate when sufficient mass is lost? Is the ratio consistent for similar gems and similar talismans? The Sith of old never asked these questions, for tradition and obedience extinguished their spark of curiosity, and these questions are much more than idle speculation. My science will remove everything superfluous. In this way, the true nature of the fundamental elements that the Jedi and Sith wield so casually will be revealed. So it must be that I am the first. I will change it all. The Sith wallowed in ritual, even during our centuries under the rule of two, playing dress-up in frightening costumes and posturing for our followers. I will burn away the colorful wrappings and study the skeptical structure that reveals the architecture of reality. My ultimate goal is the secret of life, that life gives us consciousness. For without consciousness, each of us is nothing. Through science, I will create new life and sustain my own. There is no reason why Darth Plagueis could not live forever. The Force is found throughout the universe, not only in living things. Everything in existence that draws upon various aspects of the energy we call the Force may be classified into 3 categories. The Aepyrion includes and unites all matter, giving it shape and cohesion. Aspects of the Aepyrion include gravity, electromagnetism, though the term encompasses everything in both space and time. Many of the abilities understood as belonging to the unifying force are tied to the Aperion. The anima gives life, but not thought, to animals, plants, and other living beings. Midichlorians are responsible for inducing and sustaining anima in almost all species. Many of the living force abilities are tied to the anima. The pneuma is the expression of conscious thought. Thinking, self-aware minds contribute to the collective pneuma, which is accessed by many naturally telepathic species, as well as by the various mind tricks of the Jedi and the Sith. These fundamental forces would exist even without midichlorians. However, midichlorians are the beneficiaries of an unusually strong connection to all forms of physical and psychic energy. Because the midichlorians inhabit living cells, the host organism is able to draw upon this connection. Midichlorians are endosymbionts. They die when their host dies, and no host can live if completely purged of midichlorians. All living things, regardless of their planet of origin, appear to possess midichlorians, or complementary biological structures. The reasons for this isomorphism are unknown, but the results of my experiments into abiogenesis have shifted my present focus significantly. Of considerable interest is the fact that while most cellular organelles generate chemical energy, midichlorians generate force energy. They also appear to possess a single unified consciousness, linked via the pneuma, and can be influenced by the host's mental state. In particular, negative emotions such as the loss of hope can induce cellular necrosis. Typical blood concentration is around 2,500 midichlorians per cell. Cutting this concentration in half will usually induce death. I conclude that force energy is required for life, and the midichlorians are its biological vector. Jedi and Sith have high midichlorian counts at the moments of their birth. Breeding between two force-sensitive parents is an option, as the pairings generally result in force-sensitive offspring. On the other hand, genetic defects have been a concern since the inbreeding among the royals of Vijun during their mad chase for extraordinary powers. A simple blood transfusion is the obvious answer, but I have found that the subject's native midichlorians will reject the influx of foreign cells. The solution, therefore, is not to introduce new midichlorians, but to impose one's will on the midichlorians already present in the subject. This can be done through the energy of the pneuma. Just as a warrior in peak condition can lift a heavy weight, so can someone with a sharpened mental focus and an affinity for the Force achieve a measurable effect on living cells. I began with experiments on scurriers and other small creatures. I used my will, amplified through my body's own midichlorians, to override the lesser concentrated midichlorian voices in the test subjects. This proved more challenging than I predicted. Because midichlorians are linked by a universal mind, the ones in my own cells seem to resist imposition upon their fellows. But eventually, I succeeded, first with small creatures, then with slaves purchased from the huts. I forced the midichlorians to override their natural life cycles. What I discovered is that these midichlorians would not die. Instead, they drew upon sustaining force energy, which acted on a microscopic level to halt tissue decay in their host, putting an end to aging and disease. My experiments proved midichlorians could be controlled. If this is true, then could they not also be induced to create life at the monocellular level? Midichlorians in the cells of a mother could, in theory, be persuaded to craft a zygote. For consistency in my test subjects, I obtained hundreds of identical humanoids, each with a consistent midichlorian level. After much experimentation, I succeeded in prodding the midichlorians to replicate themselves through asexual fission, though in most cases, this process increased the numbers uncontrollably and killed the host. But I believe that by using this method, I can trick midichlorians into creating a zygote. Then it would simply be a matter of growing the subject under normal biological conditions. Such a subject could, of course, take years to hit the development milestones of a typical humanoid, but he could have a midichlorian count as high as 20,000 per cell. That is more than any Jedi or Sith in recorded history. Although entirely theoretical, such an achievement is intriguing. If new life could be created where none existed before, the living could sustain their bodies indefinitely. Science has led to these conclusions, yet these secrets must be guarded with utmost care. For now, it remains purely theoretical. The secrets of immortality are not meant for common beings. If all knew these rituals, it would destabilize the structure of civilization. I do not wish to live in a galaxy where any fool can perpetuate his ignorance for eternity. Life is not mystical. Like Tabana gas or Nova crystals, life is a resource to be exploited. It is unique in that those who possess it find it priceless, yet in the aggregate, it is so common that it is functionally worthless. Billions of beings come into existence every day, and billions more die. We should preserve only those who advance our goals, or whose work is complementary to our own. Under my grand plan, this list will include apprentices, researchers, and credit-worshipping corporate executives. But all other beings must be allowed to die. I would not turn the controls of an airspeeder over to a gundark, and I will not leave the dull masses in charge of issues that matter. They are ultimately content with their brief lives. They would not know what to do with the gift of never-ending time. Immortality opens up a new tactic for the grand plan. No longer do I need to prepare for the succession of the Sith Order after my death. Schemes in politics and finance set in motion today can safely take decades or even centuries to come to fruition. Such subtle plays are ideal for the Grand Master, whose patience is infinite. My work with midichlorians is rooted in what is traditionally considered the living force, or those energies attached to the anima and the pneuma. The unifying force, or the Aperion, is not specifically necessary for the creation and manipulation of life, but midichlorians channel it nonetheless. As I look at the Force in a new light, I have found new applications for these omnipresent states. The Aperion governs the cohesion of matter, from the atoms of a pebble to all planets and gravity in the universe. This includes the dimension of time. Through the Aperion, space-time may be manipulated on a grand scale. That is, if a user channels sufficient energy through his aggregate midichlorians while maintaining focus and accuracy. I believe an individual could step instantly from one place to another by folding space, regardless of the intervening distance. Similarly, one could be able to fold time, not to temporarily displace a physical object, but to shift one's consciousness backward and forward along time's flow. Such a thing would permit the study of all knowledge through history, even the secrets recorded in the long-lost library of Sorzus. The anima governs life, and it is through this state that force healing is possible. But to sever the force, that is something rare. To sever the force is to trigger a mass die-off of a victim's midichlorians, not enough to kill, but enough to take a Jedi's power. It could be that the Jedi of old knew this feat, but if so, they did not understand its underpinnings. Severing the force is the inverse of what I have done when inducing midichlorians to create life. It is far easier to achieve. The pneuma governs consciousness. Through this, I am convinced that the energy pattern we know as self-awareness can be preserved and imprinted a second time into the neural pathways of a different brain. This process would be simplest with a cloned body that is identical to the subject's own, though in theory, any advanced biological form would prove sufficient. Body swapping of this nature is riskier than simply sustaining one's own life through midichlorian manipulation. In dire emergency, however, it could serve as an escape against oblivion. The act of transferring consciousness between bodies touches on a subject that still troubles me. The patterns that define each mind can be stored in the pneuma field, but these patterns degrade almost instantly if they are not anchored to a new biological form. The speed of this degradation is so rapid that it seems to render the argument of life after death moot. But yet, I have always been one to follow the evidence. All beings are afraid of oblivion. Every culture has written fables to assure themselves that death is not the end. Even the Jedi do this. Through midichlorians, they believe they have a connection to the universe's fundamental energies that others do not. Therefore, I am reluctant to dismiss their histories too rapidly. During the Great Sith War, Jedi combatants were said to have vanished at the moment of their deaths, with the cells of their bodies sublimating into energy. It must be noted that although I have witnessed the death of Jedi, I have never witnessed this phenomenon. Some of these Jedi were said to have returned as pure consciousness, communicating specific and verifiable information to the living. Ghost stories are so common, they are laughable. But the pneuma leads me to believe that such a thing is possible. How mental patterns persist beyond our physical minds remains an enigma. Thought degrades into randomness in less than a minute. To hold awareness longer than that, and to appear to others in the physical world while retaining both visual and auditory aspects, is a remarkable feat if true. I have read that the Lord Keepers of the Wills have perfected this, but the wills remain a frustrating puzzle for those who wish to learn more about them. One thing is clear. Although such a phenomenon technically meets the definition of life after death, it is not supernatural. The unimaginative always ascribe their own motivations to independent phenomena, including those who believe the Force has a consciousness and a will. In fact, though midichlorians shape a collective mind, the Force itself could not possibly know or care about the welfare of intelligent life. My goal, therefore, is to separate genuine insight from hyperbole. I do not know how the Jedi of the past achieved the supposed miracle of retaining their awareness after death, but I know it was not through supplication and prayer. However, the fact that individual identities are absorbed into the pneuma at the moment of their deaths explains several associated legends. The Jedi, for example, speak of another world beyond death, a realm that is vague on detail, but said to be a place of utmost peace. Similarly, chaos is where dead Sith Lords are believed to dwell in torment, at least according to legend. Those who are too weak to punish their enemies during their lifetime will be forced to hold on to their grudges and to live on in chaos, plotting but never being able to exact their revenge. The peace of the netherworld. It is easily understood as the reaction of a mind that finds itself dissipating into the hum of background energy and accepts its fate without pain or fear. Minds that are less inclined to accept their loss of identity will fight to keep their grasp on order. These stronger minds will recoil as their constituent threads are pulled apart, and they will perceive their imminent dissolution as chaos. The most accessible lore concerning life after death is found in the holocrons of the Sith. Indeed, the Sith holocrons are said to contain the spirits of their builders, and these spirits interact with users as holographic gatekeepers. But all of this is sleight of hand, a programmable artificial intelligence that wears the face of its long-dead lord. More interesting are the tales of Sith ghosts said to haunt everything from the tombs of Korriban to the relics inside Coruscant's great galactic museum. Is it possible that these masters of the dark side succeeded in preserving their awareness? If so, can they still be queried for their secrets? Unfortunately, I have been to Korriban, and I am not convinced that these tales hold truth. The tomb of Hakagon Grash remained silent to my queries, and the throne where Sorzus Syn once sat contained no mocking imperious specter. I was ready to conclude that the tales were merely diversions for the credulous, but as I boarded my ship in the Valley of the Dark Lords, I beheld a vision of the Sith Lord Marco Ragnos. The apparition challenged my claim to the Sith title and railed against my plan to dismantle the traditions of Korriban. But the vision of Ragnos would not answer my questions, nor my delineated inquiries. He snarled and disappeared in a whirl of smoke. It is possible that the entire episode simply played out in my mind. There is one spirit encounter that would truly intrigue me, however. I would enjoy questioning my master, Darth Tenebris, to see if he anticipated my growing power, and whether he knew I might destroy him on Beldemnik. I wonder what Tenebris would think of all his apprentice has achieved since that day. The beliefs of the Jedi are expressed in ritual and storytelling. Plain language seems to somehow elude those who have grown up tightly wrapped in tradition. The Jedi await the coming of a savior, a prophesied chosen one, who will destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force.
The Jedi tell tales of Mortis, a place of impossible geography inside the angles of a gargantuan monolith. The three all-powerful beings of Mortis can assume strange shapes and exemplify the dark side, the light side, and the principle of balance. Compelling? It is debatable, but at the very least, it is an adequate way to illustrate an allegorical point. Day coexists with night, for example, and construction is always followed by ruin. Yet many of the Jedi treat the legend of Mortis as literal truth. They believe that the Chosen One will prevent these gods and demons from tearing the universe asunder, that their champion will be a vessel of pure force energy. So we come back to midichlorians. These organisms allow beings to live and provide a connection to the Force. If bred in sufficient quantities, midichlorians can even conceive a new life form and bestow upon it powers greater than any Jedi has ever dreamed, generating a vergence in the Force. If I induced midichlorians to create such a being, my handiwork would fit all of the descriptions of their Chosen One, but he would be an agent of my will. How fitting that the misguided reliance on superstition could lead to a Sith creation that is hailed by the Jedi as a savior. The Sith have their religion too. Since the time of Korriban's savage primitives, our order has become encumbered by rituals in the way that a starship accumulates minox. This ends with me. I will replace those beliefs with truth, rationality, and the rule of the gifted. Yet the prophecy of the Sithari still holds some interest. Prophecies are generally wishful thinking, but because midichlorians have the ability to tap the Aperion, any tugs on space-time can be interpreted as future sight. The fact that the Sith created their own savior myth is predictable, but the prophecy states that a being will arise who is free from restrictions, and who will destroy the Sith only to make them stronger than before. These statements seem uniquely specific to the actions I am taking now. I am free from blind obedience to symbols and mysticism. I will end the traditions that have bound the Sith throughout their history. I have unlocked the secrets of life, and by doing so, I will enable long-term plans to ensure Sith dominance for centuries. I am not a creature of superstition, but if the robes of the Sithari fit, I see no reason not to claim them.
The writings I have collected in this volume appear in their original forms. Many are fragments of what once were longer works, but the preservation of what remains is less important than the recognition of how they led to my new vision of the Sith Order. The following 3 books: The Weakness of Inferiors, The Book of Anger, and The Manipulation of Life, present how I achieved absolute power, how I shall maintain it through the agency of my galactic empire, and how I will reshape the galaxy throughout the ages to come. The empire has only begun to be built, but its foundation is the anger of the dark side. Although the mindless subjects know nothing of this shadowy mastery, the true power of the Empire originates with its Emperor. The promises laid out by the Rule of Two have been fulfilled. The Sith have been brought to glory, and the Jedi to destruction. As Darth Bane and Mother Talzin knew, the weakness of inferiors is self-evident. The weak do not understand the Force. They are ignorant and lack power, but they may still be exploited for gain. No ruler can manage an entity as complex as the populated galaxy without knowing how to manipulate others. Fear is the spark that drove my march to power. Even now it fuels the engine of my empire. The weak must be trained to fear the consequences of betrayal. They must dread that their neighbor's loyalty is greater than their own. The anxious will whip themselves into hysterical nationalism without further prompting, for fear is self-perpetuating. The weak live in fear that they will be judged for their failings and be put on display, that they will be punished. It is a belief that should not be discouraged. Fear was a necessary component in destroying the Jedi and burning away the putrefying vestiges of the Republic. But first I had to create that fear. Fear of revolution, of destruction, and of death. I had to create a war on a massive scale. My apprentice, Count Dooku, rallied star systems to his banner, inflaming passions among Rim citizens. This naturally deepened the fears of the core residents, who clamored for protection like brush kids mewling for their mothers. The clone army I have prepared was met with applause and relief. It did not matter at all that I dictated orders to the separatists through my apprentice, nor that every Republic victory was followed with a carefully planned defeat. The benefits of a false war were countless. From the clone army came the battle fleet and arsenal of new mechanized weapons of war. Overnight, the Republic had a class of military elites who swore their loyalty to the Supreme Chancellor. The senators feared that being painted as disloyal would make them unelectable, so they supported measures to dismantle all checks on centralized power. On the opposite side, the Trade Federation, the Commerce Guild, and the other corporate conglomerates joined together to protect their profits. They unknowingly pledged their allegiance to the Sith. The Jedi did not want war, but they had little choice. They had to join the fight, lest they face public scorn. There, on the front lines, my war struck down my enemies and shredded their morals, until they were on the brink of the dark side. The Jedi were never true heroes. I saw to that by manipulating their holonet. The people were led to fear the Jedi's arrogance and strange power. By crafting the news, the clone troopers and their noble chancellors became the fearless heroes of the Republic. When the time came for the Jedi to be eliminated, the public did not mourn them. When the Senate learned that the Jedi had attempted a coup and needed to be exterminated, they responded with absolute certainty. And when the people saw smoke rising from the Jedi Temple, they felt relief. The galaxy is free of Jedi, and the citizens rejoice. Therefore, it would be foolish to replace their regime with the identical system led by the Sith, at least publicly. The weak do not understand the Force. They venerate those who appear to be ordinary people like themselves. They cheered at the news that a resolute old man survived a Jedi assassination attempt. In Palpatine, an ordinary senator from Naboo, they see a model of human achievement. My apprentice and other agents of my will are fearsome embodiments of the dark side. Mere rumors of their presence are enough to frighten citizens into obedience. But those same citizens must not know that a Sith Lord has constructed the Galactic Empire until it is too late. But that hidden truth in no way diminishes my triumph. The Sith have long operated from the shadows. and the 1,000-year wait of Darth Bane is over. The Sith have exacted their revenge. The galaxy praises the Empire, and the feeble-minded are not worthy of understanding its true origin. Like Darth Bane and my master before me, I have honed the tools of deception. Darth Bane kept a low profile, but it was Darth Plagueis who, as the face of the intergalactic banking clan, shaped the economies of entire regions. In truth, everyone wears a mask. When speaking to others, a false persona can charm, seduce, or frighten. A Sith knows that all interactions are masked. It is no great difficulty to don multiple masks when the situation demands it. All beings want to make sense of their reality, but none of them wish to think too deeply. They gravitate towards words that confirm their existing suspicions. In my decades as an ambassador, senator, and supreme chancellor, I did not once encounter an exception to this rule. It was true whether I was reminding the Senate of the need for war powers or sitting across from Master Yoda and convincing him to send more Jedi Knights into harm's way. None suspected the duplicity of my identity. In fact, so convinced were the Jedi of their superior insight that they were the easiest to deceive. Through the principles of anger, I will secure and maintain my empire. The writings of Darth Malgus confirm that anger, combined with will, is the key to power. When anger intensifies to rage, it is unstoppable. Malgus submitted utterly to the dark side, and doing so made him an exemplary warrior. His battlefield feats have never been duplicated. It must be understood that anger can be funneled through the body and released near the heart at the vital gate. The destruction that can be unleashed by the method is immense. Thousands of enemies can be annihilated in a single act of malice. In time, the channeled anger of the dark side will prove just as destructive as the Death Star. There will no longer be a need for costly constructions. Already I have perfected the Force Maelstrom, which creates an invulnerable energy sphere to block incoming attacks while bombarding enemies with debris and electrifying them with bolts of lightning. This technique can be increased into a Force Storm. The churning energy mass from Force Storm can consume everything it touches, for at its eyes pure hate, just as a black hole devours a star. This storm can swallow armies and fold space. It may take decades to master this art, but once I have perfected it, I will be invincible. Anger has more uses than personal strength. A strong ruler knows that fear can keep commoners in line, but anger can weaken enemies. Indeed, my subjects fear me, but that fear will lead to anger, and anger will make my empire strong. However, anger directed towards authority is dangerous. By encouraging fear of exotic and the unusual, a regime can be strengthened. The Empire has uniformity in its symbols and its ideologies, which makes it easier to shame those who do not belong and to make them the objects of the galaxy's rage. The Republic's alien species are the simplest targets. Most humans of the core already despise looking into their multiple eyes or listening to their clicking, buzzing languages. They hate their bewildering customs and their sharp stench. Coruscant is a seething boil of species, but humans far outnumber any other species. It is an ideal place to sow the seeds of suspicion to instill the idea that those who don't conform are the enemy and enemies must be destroyed, making the powerless a target. The people will not threaten the one in power. On the contrary, the ruler will be venerated as a hero for exposing the weak. Darth Bane instituted the rule of 2, so I will begin the rule of 1. The Sith will now be sustained by one to hold the power and others talented in the Force to execute my will as dark side agents. Although the Jedi Order has been obliterated, many Force sensitives have survived. Those who still hold the belief that there is virtue in peace or in closing oneself off to sensation will be made to conform. They must find value in the ways of the dark side. Unleashing their anger is fundamental for drawing them into my fold, as well as for them to gain an understanding of the dark side. For it is in anger that Force users are strongest. Once trapped, these emotions can turn idealists into slaves. Even those with brightly burning passions, those who vow to resist with their dying breath, can be broken in 3 simple steps. First, they must be tempted. The strong-willed always have something they desire, or something they possess that they fear to lose. They will see their drive to protect this item as noble by encouraging this delusion. A puppet is created. Second, the puppets must be tested by creating an immediate danger or placing subjects in peril. They will be forced to make a decision, crazed by fear and the mere thought of losing what they hold dear. They will do anything that is asked of them, if only to preserve their most cherished desires. Third, they must be forced to submit. A moment will arise when they will take it a step too far. In panic or fear, they will hurt others or commit a crime in such a way the outside world will never forgive. After that moment, there is no return from the dark side. Some who have been ensnared will choose to end their lives. Most, however, will accept their role as new warriors of the dark side. One life has ended, and a better one has begun. As a new rule of 1 is enacted, I will be free to enlist a throng of dark side followers. These talented mimics will be trained to replicate a smattering of my abilities, yet will never take even a fraction of my authority. The Inquisitorius is an arm of the Imperial Intelligence tasked with extracting information through torture. The most effective will serve as Grand Inquisitors, and the best of those will be selected as the Emperor's hand. These elite agents will be handpicked for loyalty and stealth. They shall be unseen enforcers across the breadth of my vast dominion. The red-robed Royal Guard will protect me from those who think themselves worthy of an audience with the Emperor. With their ranks, a few who are touched in the Force will comprise a rarefied warrior unit called the Shadow Guard. The captured Padawans and survivors from the Jedi Service Corps are less gifted in the Force, but they will serve me nonetheless as dark side adepts. Until I have use for them, they shall remain on base, where their connection to the Force will be intensified, the planet's growing nexus of dark side potency. The future of my empire is founded in the mysteries of life, how to hold on to it so that my reign will never end, and how to twist it to create colossi that will do my bidding. Not even nature can stand in my way. I have mastered the dark side arts of deception, fear, and anger. but the science of darkness represented by the writings of Sorzus Syn and Darth Plagueis is open for exploration. Amusingly, the philosophies of the two authors could not be more opposed. Both Sith Lords understood living things are not special. They are a resource to be harvested and shaped by the powerful. Through the dark side, I can make many new shapes. The alchemy developed by Syn is perfected on beasts, where my dark side adepts join their potent skills to warp life on a broad scale. My monstrous chrysalids, with their magnificent metal-piercing fangs, guard the ramparts of my citadel. My mute Imperial sentinels stand by my throne. Their annihilated minds and enslaved wills will clear evidence the dark side can manipulate clones for any imaginative purposes. Although alchemy can create perfect beings, I have designed weakness into all of these creations. The flaws are minute and known only to me. It would not do for any creature to be stronger than its creator. These experiments will lead to greater things, opportunities for me to create new beginnings of my own design. What then will separate me from the gods of Naboo myth? The philosophies of creating monsters is applicable to the most fundamental elements of life. Darth Plagueis focused too narrowly on midichlorians, but he was right about a great many things. The dark side consumes the physical body, just as mine became misshapen after the attempted Jedi assassination. But the mind can be preserved. Through the art of dark transfer, I will soon move myself to a younger body cloned from my own cells. I will achieve immortality, even if I am killed. I will return from the chaos of non-being to be restored to physical life. This, even my master could not achieve. I knew it was so when I halted his breathing and watched the light vanish from his eyes. He sought the secret of life to live forever, but I took his life. I remain the ultimate Sith. Through the eras, the Sith foretold of a being who would destroy their order and rebuild it stronger than before. I do not care about ancient prophecies. The approval of the dead is meaningless. Yet it is clear that the Sithari could be no other than me. The Imperial Age has begun. I have centuries to expound on my philosophies. Yet all knowledge flows from the dark side writings collected here. Let these pages mark the inception of the first Book of Sith.